The story begins with several thunderstorms over the sect. The smiling protagonist says that they did well to block this last blow. However, he states that there will be no obstacles in his ascension to immortality. Soon, he affirms that from this point on, he will enter the land of the immortals and obtain his immortality. A beautiful maiden on a platform of petals says, "At the lowest depth of the underworld, the fire of the spirit, messenger of light, a drop to reach 1,000 miles, a cut to reach the heart, the ascended talisman without delay, follow your order." Then, she conjures her divine thunder technique upon him. The powerful force falls upon him, making him kneel. Pointing her blade at him, she says that he insists on trying to defeat her master. Clenching his teeth, he states how she dares to interrupt the ceremony of his ascension. Then he asks if she really does not believe that he would kill her, and if she truly trusts her power to dominate him. Soon, he begins to gather his strength in his hand, but he did not expect a surprise attack from another person, who strikes his chest. The girl who hit him with her hand mocks his pathetic expression and questions how he could humiliate her master in this way. Then she tells her sister that, even though her master has committed thousands of sins, they should let him leave this world with dignity. He is frustrated by this surprise attack. Still frustrated, he comments to them that he never treated them unfairly for years. He never thought they would betray him in this way. Furious, he says that since it will be this way, he plans to take them with him. Then, releasing a strong energy over the ground, an enormous golden object with Japanese words descends from the sky to stop him. This treasure is called the copper coin, an extremely valuable treasure. After falling from the sky, this treasure lands on him, restraining him. Upon receiving the treasure's blow, he realizes that another person has betrayed him. Zhuer, also an acquaintance of his. Seeing that they all betrayed him, he questions where the rest of his disciples are, who likely also betrayed him. Then, from the shadows, his remaining disciples emerge, revealing themselves to their master. While everyone thought he would show regret, he starts laughing. After laughing in a way that demonstrates his madness, he asks how they dare to truly look down on him. Clasping his hands, he says that no matter what they planned, if they wish to take his life, they will have to try. Then, once again, he begins to release an overwhelming energy that takes the enormous form of an Asura engulfed in flames. He could be seen throughout the entire sect due to his size. Soon, he unleashes his infernal wrath against all his disciples. His disciples are surprised by the strength he has shown. They also realize that he is planning to self-destruct. His disciples, seeing that there was no way to escape his destructive attack, beg their master for mercy. However, without pity, he self-destructs, devastating a part of the world. After this, suddenly, he awakens frightened and questions whether he is truly safe. Then he begins to orient himself by looking around until, looking out the window, he realizes that where he is infested with zombies. Being almost immortal, he quickly realizes that he has finally been reborn. Soon, he begins to wonder why his disciples thought of killing him and what they would gain from it. Whatever it is, the only way to get answers is to train this new body to the maximum. He then intends that when he returns to his mortal world one day, he will make sure to teach them a lesson. He sits on the ground to meditate. In his current state, he needs to progress as quickly as possible to return to his normal form. Meditating, he begins to check his spiritual power. However, he is surprised that he cannot detect it. Then he thinks that perhaps the aptitude of this body is so poor. Furious, he wonders if maybe this body does not have spiritual energy. Without spiritual power, there is no way to cultivate, and without cultivating, surviving in this world will be extremely difficult. The people the protagonist had seen fleeing from the zombies earlier enter a room where the protagonist is staying. The girl is in shock because she almost died. However, the boy, without caring about her situation, grabs her by the waist and starts taking off her clothes with ulterior motives. She seems to have forgotten what she just went through and also starts wanting to enjoy the moment. But when they were about to continue their play, suddenly, the boy's face starts to deform entirely, his flesh rotting in an instant, and he quickly turns into a zombie on top of the girl. When she realizes it, she starts kicking him away from her until she finds an opening to escape. She begins screaming for help. The protagonist hears the girl's screams. Checking his memories, he discovers that the voice of this girl belongs to his girlfriend or his lover, making the protagonist feel disgusted that people close to him also betrayed him. When he opens the door, he comes across the boy the girl was cheating on him with, devouring her right in front of him. The girl cries for help while the protagonist only watches her despair, making her fall into complete desperation as she is devoured. She screams the protagonist's name, showing that he has no mercy for those who betray him. She even curses the protagonist. However, he closes the door, leaving her to die. Instead of feeling guilty, he actually feels great. After this, he starts planning a way to escape from there. If he dies there, he will never be able to return to his past life. Then, he sits again to meditate so he can do his best. He begins to check his sea of consciousness to try to recover something that might help him regain his strength. However, with the cultivation level of this current body of the protagonist, there is no way he can consider high-level magical weapons. Then, he thinks of waiting for the opportunity and hoping for the best result. Soon, he pulls from his consciousness a low-level magical weapon called the Banner of 10,000 Souls. However, the protagonist does not seem very pleased with this weapon he obtained. Throwing it to the ground furiously, he questions whether he could not have gotten a high-level weapon. He could at least have something useful. But suddenly, in his mind, a voice says that it has been detected that the host has obtained a magical weapon called the Banner of 10,000 Souls. The host is now linked to the 10,000 Souls banner system. He observes the window in front of him. Without surprise, he thinks that the function of the banner is to collect souls. It can collect the souls of the dead and convert them into soul power for the host. The higher the level of the 10,000 Souls banner, the stronger the soul it can collect and the more spiritual power for the host. The system explains that the soul of a dead person will last 5 minutes before it disappears. Smiling at this function and alternative way of becoming stronger, the protagonist becomes excited. As with zombies, there will be no shortage of materials to obtain spiritual power. Soon, the two who were at the door next to him and turned into zombies start banging on the protagonist's door, who decides to check. After opening, he decides to help them with the banner. He pierces the heads of both simultaneously, absorbing their souls. After they die, the creatures make a horrendous noise while perishing. However, the banner grants an advancement to the protagonist. The system says that his current realm is the spiritual sea realm of 10,000 souls, and that he can currently control 2 souls. Some people are being surrounded by some zombies. The protagonist walks among the group that is fleeing from the zombies. While the others run, he walks, thinking about how weak his body is. He thinks about finding some supplies to also improve the standard of 10,000 souls. The zombies attacking people even make those who seemed nice show their true face when their lives are at risk. And when this person throws another away, it catches the protagonist's attention, who immediately looks at the lady's appearance, which strongly resembled Lin Wang-Qiu, making even the protagonist wonder why she is there. Automatically, he summons the standard as quickly as possible, wanting to take revenge on his disciple. He throws the standard at her, but then he decides not to hit her and instead targets the zombie that was about to attack her, knocking it back a little. He runs at full speed, catching the standard in the air, and uses the blade at the tip to cut the zombie, piercing its chest. He saves her. Kneeling, she is surprised to be saved, and starts wondering who this man who saved her is. The protagonist mocks her, saying that she used her thunder technique and, in the end, ended up reduced to this miserable state. However, now she is in a weakened state before a mere zombie. He says that her master is very disappointed in her. She apparently has no previous memories, making her question what he is saying and how he knows her name if she has never seen him before. She stands up and thanks him for saving her life, then asks if she has seen him somewhere before. The protagonist observes and asks if she is trying to escape her downfall by pretending to be crazy. He points the standard at her. Confused, calling him "Sir," she says that this is not the right moment to act as if they were in a dramatic play. She says that there could be more monsters like this one there, and she thinks about leaving as quickly as possible. While observing, the protagonist wonders if he might have been mistaken. Perhaps she is not the Lin Wang-kyu he knows. However, he quickly dismisses this idea, thinking it would be impossible. The woman in front of him is exactly that traitor. He would never make a mistake unless that traitor had lost her memory after coming to this world. He raises his hand and thinks about verifying it, but before he touches her, his stomach starts growling. She notices and begins laughing. With great respect, she says that if he does not mind, they can go to the large shopping center. It is not far. There, they can receive supplies, as well as stay safe. The protagonist immediately thinks that this makes sense. He considers accompanying her to see for himself. She immediately grabs his hand and starts pulling him, saying that the sooner they arrive, the more supplies they can take. The protagonist finds it suspicious but decides to follow along for now, trying to discover whether she truly lost her memories or is acting. However, regardless of whether she is acting or not, she was indeed the person who betrayed him. That will never change. He thinks that he will make her pay the price for it. Soon, they finally arrive at their destination to collect supplies. She stops and says she forgot something important, asking his name. The protagonist thinks that maybe she really is not pretending, since she is asking for his name. He looks around, and then they enter the place to hide until the rescue arrives. However, they realize that several zombies are eating the refugees who were there. Lin despairs, unable to believe what is happening and why there are so many monsters there. Suddenly, a different monster appears, repeating a phrase, asking for a 50% discount. This monster seems to be on a different level from the other zombies, even cutting down its own kind without any mercy. Watching, the protagonist comments that it is an elemental, a different and stronger monster. Lin, beside him and scared, says that this place is no longer safe. She asks to leave as soon as possible. However, the protagonist thinks differently, summoning his standard to fight the elemental monster. It is all he needs to reach level 2 of his 10,000 soul standard. He throws his weapon into the air, intending to use his new ability. As his weapon spins in the air, suddenly, 2 zombies emerge from it, turning into his puppets. The zombies he summoned are the ones he previously defeated. With this, he orders them to attack the zombies that were separated from the strongest one. His zombies, showing great agility, manage to defeat the weaker zombies easily. However, when the elemental zombie appears, the protagonist quickly acts, making his summons return as fast as possible. The elemental mercilessly slashes through the weaker zombies. The protagonist feels pity because the zombies he just killed were supposed to serve his standard. So, he intends to act as quickly as possible because his spiritual power is not abundant. The longer the battle lasts, the higher his chances of losing. He quickly crosses his fingers and begins controlling his puppets against the elemental creature. However, the creature easily defeats his first puppet with a simple attack. But with the opening created by the first puppet, he uses his second one to latch onto it. Seizing the opportunity, his puppet lands a bite on its neck, ripping a piece off the elemental monster, which roared in pain and collapsed to the ground. Finally knocked out, he immediately approached the creature and began using his abilities to absorb the elemental creature's soul. Soon, his banner released its chains against the elemental monster, binding it and forcing it to submit to the protagonist. After the absorption was successfully completed, the system congratulated him for killing the low-level zombie and upgraded his banner to the second level, increasing its ability to control 5 creatures simultaneously. The system then specified that to evolve to level 3, he needed to hunt a level 3 zombie. After reading what the system had stated, the protagonist thought that this meant he would have to face much more powerful monsters. However, he realized that his cultivation level was not much higher than the Sea Realm level. Upon seeing that he had managed to defeat the creature, Lin happily approached the protagonist, saying that at first she thought he was crazy for acting the way he did. Soon after, some people appeared. Others commented that now that the monsters had been eliminated, they could resume distributing supplies. Several citizens began to emerge after seeing that the area was safe. Some started considering waiting for rescue. Lin was surprised by the amount of supplies available, but before anyone could touch them, some extras appeared, asking who they were and whether they were unaware of the rules of the place. One of them claimed that since this was their territory, why would they dare to take the supplies? Other extras around them echoed the same sentiment. They even had the audacity to say that they were the ones who had managed to save those supplies from the monsters, and that they would be the ones to enjoy them. Furious, Lin asked how they dared to say that when it was the protagonist who had saved them. One of the extras questioned how it was him and mocked his stature, calling it a joke, saying that there was no way he could have defeated those monsters alone. He admitted that it was fine to take something, but she should at least have the decency to share some credit and feel ashamed. Unable to believe what they were saying, she called them bastards. The protagonist, placing a hand on her shoulder, told her to calm down and commented that it was fine. Since ancient times, money has attracted people's hearts. However, they should know that benefits cannot be gained simply by relying on words. With a tearful expression, Lin said that it was unfair, that he had defeated those monsters, and now these people were getting a free deal while also mocking them. The protagonist released his aura and stated that only the weak were truly rational, but strength was the real truth. Taking a step forward, he declared that he would take the supplies now and questioned who was in favor and who was against it. Some fools opposed him, even threatening the protagonist, believing their numbers gave them an advantage. Confident that they could stand against him, the protagonist immediately sent them to hell, summoning his elemental zombie and declaring that all the supplies would be his. Just by the presence of the monster, the extras were struck with shock and immense fear. Some, overwhelmed with terror, even pleaded for mercy. However, showing no pity, he had his creature tear them apart instantly. For the ones who remained, he questioned again whether anyone would oppose him. Their reaction was clear. They began to obey and fell silent. He then told Lin to take whatever she wanted. Determined that she was doing the right thing, she took the lead and began collecting the supplies, while the protagonist retrieved his zombie. As she selected the supplies, Lin asked if he wasn't going to take anything for himself. Smiling, the protagonist replied that he had saved her life and asked whether, if he requested her to carry some supplies for him, she would be willing to do so. Under normal circumstances, the old Lin would have never accepted such a request. This question was designed to reveal Lin's true nature. However, what the protagonist didn't expect was for her to accept so easily. Without hesitation, she picked up a backpack and started packing supplies into it. Slightly frustrated, the protagonist remarked that perhaps her appearance was really just a coincidence. After filling the backpack, she said it was all set and asked if they should stay there until the rescue arrived. The protagonist stated that he was going to hunt stronger zombies and that she needed to carry the supplies. She agreed and began following him on this adventure. As soon as he turned his back, the extras began cursing the protagonist. Some even planned to report him to the authorities as soon as the rescue team arrived. However, they soon remembered the remaining supplies and started fighting over them. What they didn't expect was that the protagonist had left some of his other summons behind, knowing they would argue over the leftovers, demonstrating that he truly understood human nature. The extras fight over the contents of the supply boxes. They fight tirelessly for supplies, demonstrating the true nature of human beings. An angry man claims to have taken the materials first. The man who is held to the old man is amazed to look behind the old man who is holding him. A close-up of the old man's eyes, which are wide open, showing clear terror. He falls to the ground in total terror and shaking. The old man is shocked and outraged, asking how this is possible and why this is still happening. Soon everyone runs in despair and anguish for their lives, which are hanging by a thread, because those creatures have returned to torment them. Just like a blade, they are both cut, leaving only screams of horror to escape from the warehouse. A crying woman laments who can save them now, while expressing her fear of dying, but she is already practically lifeless. The monster, with his evil smile, steps on the woman who is crying out to stay alive. After stepping on its head, it explodes with blood everywhere. The protagonist walks through the destroyed city, emitting his bright green energy while holding his staff. He claims that nipping problems in the bud will cause fewer problems later. He also says that he can now only control 3 zombies at the same time. The excited blonde woman shouts. However, he ignores it because he thinks he can only avoid threats temporarily and needs to keep a low profile until he levels up. The blonde woman calls him Lord Sube and comments that he should wait for her. She repeats in a pleading tone. The protagonist says he is busy and has no time to waste on her, threatens to leave her if she wastes time again. The blonde woman thinks that Lord Sube would never abandon her. The protagonist smiles. He just says, "Oh." The protagonist questions the blonde woman's trust. He argues that they are not relatives or friends, so why would he abandon her? The woman asks where the powerful zombie the man is looking for is. The protagonist shows surprise at the woman's question. The woman asks if he knows the whereabouts of advanced zombies, and explains that he didn't stay at the school because of a monster near the artificial lake that gives off a special smell. The woman thinks she doesn't know which monster he's looking for, but he looks dangerous. The protagonist thinks to himself whether the dangerous type is a mutant beast and that, if so, it is necessary to investigate. He tells the woman to guide him, as she seems to have some valuable information. He tells the woman not to walk in front of him and that he will show the zombie the way. The scene shows a group of zombies. The woman looks at something while he follows her. He asks what the woman's intention is in constantly walking and stopping. The girl asks the protagonist to be quiet, as many people at school have turned into monsters, and it is difficult to deal with them if he accidentally provokes them. The protagonist says that the monsters aren't that much of a problem, and that he doesn't have much time to waste. He thrusts his spear into the ground hard. The protagonist orders others to eliminate obstacles, then his summons run towards them. The girl comments on the protagonist's strength, questioning how dominant he is. The monsters are defeated, with blood and bodies scattered across the ground. The protagonist thinks about what happened to the world and why so many people became monsters. He notes that there are still living people nearby. The girl is surprised by a familiar voice. 3 men fight a crowd of zombies, shouting at them to get out of the way. A zombie attacks the young man who repels him with a bat. The zombie growls. The young man fights other zombies, screaming for him to go to hell. There are other zombies around. The young man hits the zombie with the bat. Several young people fight against a zombie, using sticks to hit it. A zombie jumps at the young people. The young man shouts a warning. The zombie ties up one of the young men, who gets into a physical fight with the zombie. One of the young people kills the zombie. Another young man orders an immediate retreat, as the monsters are many. One of them ponders the impossibility of fighting them. The girl is worried about the presence of Guoming and Li Mingong in that place. The protagonist says he knows one of the two, as he is a classmate at school. The protagonist expresses surprise and asks if she expected him to save the others. There is a tone of challenge in the question. She holds the protagonist's hand tightly. She pulls him away, saying they need to go quickly before the monsters find them. The rush and danger are evident. The protagonist wonders if she won't save her classmates. The question implies that he should help. He asks for help, but the man says he cannot allow himself to be put in danger, even if he can help them under certain conditions. The protagonist says that the words could never have been spoken by someone who betrayed him, and that the woman appears to be just a normal girl. The zombie's body shouts someone's name, Lin Wankyu. They beg for help, saying they can't stand it alone anymore and need her help. He says he is dragging them into a dangerous situation. His anger and frustration are clear. The group of zombies are in the schoolyard, while they are at a safe distance. The group of zombies attacks the extras. The woman is terrified. She asks if the zombies are coming towards them. The woman is desperate and apologizes. She says it was all her fault and apologizes. The protagonist tells her to take a step back. The protagonist claims that the demon king of the 9 Netherlands himself was murdered. He confronts the dead creatures, calling them disgusting. He questions whether these enemies are worthy of him to kill. The protagonist orders his zombies to kill. Your zombies attack others in a brutal way. The fight continues. The group of zombies surround and riot over the prota's creatures. But zombies emerge. A system message indicates that there are 2 manipulable corpses. The protagonist expresses his irritation with a tiatsk. He says that dealing with 10 zombies at the same time is their limit and that they need to find a way to fend them off to survive. She asks the protagonist if he can do something. He calls her by name and she says she needs help. The protagonist says he will drive away the zombies if the woman finds something that makes a lot of noise. The woman thinks of something that makes a lot of noise. She shows him a cell phone and asks if it is used to make noise. He shows surprise. The protagonist looks at his cell phone, saying, "Let's see." Soon they press the play button. Soon the phone starts playing super loud music by Pablo Vittar. The crowd of zombies follows them in the direction of the music. The protagonist's zombie reappears again, attacking the smaller zombies. He holds the cell phone. The woman is scared as zombies approach. The protagonist says, "What a great magic weapon." And when all the zombies come together, he throws the cell phone away. Several zombie hands reach up because of the phone that is flying. While the cell phone flies, the protagonist's creature catches it in the air. The protagonist with his staff in hand shouts, "Come on." He fights several zombies using his chain gun. He holds his staff against the crowd. The woman appears shocked, expressing surprise and disbelief with the phrase, "Ah, seriously, is it working?" The protagonist holds her hand tightly. He tells the woman to leave. She begs him to slow down. Shows the building where they are going. The woman sits strongly on the floor. The woman is lying on the floor, panting. He thanks her for her help and says she couldn't have gotten there without her. She says it's okay, and that she will help her find advanced zombies to save their lives. 3 men suddenly appear from a door. A man claims that everyone was saved thanks to something that happened. Otherwise, he would have to explain why he couldn't protect them. A man looks at her with her backpack. He calls her by name and says he's glad she was saved. Spotting the girl, one of the guys asks if Lin Wonkyu has returned with supplies. Another colleague celebrates, saying that they are now safe. Opening Lin Wenkyu's backpack, the boys are surprised by the amount of items. One of them comments that there really is a lot of stuff in there. Annoyed, she stops the students from picking up things and explains that it was Subai who got the supplies. Therefore, you do not have the right to distribute them. With an irritated expression, the boy questions her logic. He argues that it makes no sense to divide between mine and yours. Now, he insists that she deliver the supplies quickly because other students need them. Trying to calm the situation, another student asks them to stop arguing. He mentions that the place is not safe. He suggests going back to the classroom to think about distribution. The same student then invites Subai to join them. After all, he comments that unity is strength. The group then starts moving towards the room. Following the school corridor, the group advances together. Subai and Lin Wonkyu stay a little behind. Walking alongside the protagonist, Lin Wonkyu apologizes for what happened. She assures him that she won't let anyone take his supplies. Subai replies that everything is fine. Your only objective is to find the advanced zombie. She asks how he ensures the others will obey him. Confidently, Lin Wonkyu tells Subai not to worry. She mentions that there are many teachers among the survivors, so the other students wouldn't dare to cause trouble. Snickering, Subai seems to doubt her confidence. Next to him, the girl just smiles slightly. Walking a little further ahead, the student who argued earlier mumbles. He says they better not dare. After all, he clearly saw that the backpack was full of food. Thoughtfully, the same boy calculates that with those supplies, they could survive for at least a month, enough time for rescue to arrive. Another whispering wonders if Lin Wonkyu would agree to his plans, and also questions what Subai is up to. The bespectacled student, who previously seemed appeasing, adjusts his glasses with a mischievous smile. He says, "I'm entering their territory." The bespectacled student believes that now they cannot refuse. If they cooperate, perhaps they will receive something, otherwise things could get complicated. Arriving at the door of room 108, Le Mingxuan tells him it's him, and that they're back with supplies. A teacher with glasses quickly opens the door, relieved. She thanks God that they are back, and anxiously asks where the supplies are. Entering the classroom, the group comes across the other survivors. All eyes turn to them and Lin Wonkyu's backpack. Su-bai observes the survivors in the room. He wonders how they have survived until now. It seems like the zombies haven't appeared a long time ago. The teacher asks Lin Wangqiu to distribute the supplies quickly. One survivor comments that they haven't eaten in 3 days. Somewhat reluctantly, Lin Wangqiu agrees to share. Bending over the backpack, Lin Wangqiu tells him that he will only give half of the supplies. The other half belongs to Su-bai, so they can't touch it. One of the survivors questions why Su-bai would need so many supplies. He then offers to pay for the food. The boy insists that he will pay 10 times the market price. He directly asks Su-bai if he minds. With a slight smile, Su-bai replies that he has no objections. Satisfied, the survivor praises Su-bai, calling him smart. He approaches the backpack to get the supplies, saying, "Let's see." Suddenly, the boy's face shows pure shock. Something seems to have stopped him abruptly. Su-bai intervenes with his weapon, forcing the student to retreat. Behind him, a sinister figure appears as he states that it actually does matter. The sinister creature appears, causing total panic in the room. The survivors scream in despair, asking where the monster came from. One of them points out that it's Li Mingxuan's fault for bringing him. Su-bai quickly approaches the frightened student. With his skull weapon, he pressures the boy and asks if he is responsible. Grabbing his collar, Su-bai coldly accuses him, "You eliminated 2 of my undead and still wanted my supplies." The student stutters, asking to please talk. Out of patience, Su-bai throws the student hard. He flies backwards, falling to the living room floor. Approaching, the protagonist steps on the chest of the fallen boy. The survivor screams in pain and fear from the pressure. Looking down from above, Su-bai questions with a threatening tone, "Tell me, should I end you right now? Or maybe take your soul to make up for my loss?" Desperate, the student on the floor begs his friends, "Zhang Hao Guming, help me ask for mercy," and says they came up with that plan together. The other colleagues quickly place all the blame on him. "Mr. Su-bai, it was all Li Mingxuan's idea. We didn't know." They ask to be released because they are irrelevant. Li Mingxuan faces his former companions completely betrayed. He shouts that he fought for the supplies for them. Now they treated him that way, abandoning him there. Seeing that he would have no help, he turned to Lin Wangqiu. "Please help me, I was wrong, I don't want anything else." He begs for forgiveness while Su-bai watches him coldly. Coldly watching Su-bai wonder what Lin Wangqiu would do. He questions whether the ruthless girl would act. Lin Wangqiu sighs heavily for a moment. She seems to be considering the situation complicated. Kneeling down, she asks Su-bai to forgive Li Mingxuan. For everyone's sake, she offers her own share of the supplies. Su-bai notices that her nature doesn't seem to match. Maybe she only resembles the other person superficially. In this case, he thinks he no longer needs to keep her around. The protagonist lifts his foot once again over the fallen student. The intention to finish the boy is clear. Declaring the end of the agreement, Su-bai prepares to leave. He says that Lin Wangqiu has found his companions, and it is time to say goodbye. Your next mission is to find the advanced zombie. Lin Wangqiu quickly grabs his arm to stop him. She desperately asks for a minute. The girl claims that she might know where the monster is. Surprised, Su-bai turns to her. The protagonist asks if she saw the creature. She denies seeing it but felt something strange at school. The aura this thing emitted left her terrified. Lin Wangqiu admits that he doesn't know if he is the advanced zombie. Su-bai considers this new information carefully. Su-bai then remembers the innate spiritual physique, a special body that can sense spiritual power. Surprised, he thinks if this woman, it's really that person from the past. The scene changes to the original world of immortality, a mountainous and energetic place. There we see Wangqiu approaching his master. She claims to have found what he wanted. The master hands her a peculiar item. It looks like a root or a special type of plant. Holding the item, the man seems curious. He asks the girl to tell him how she found him. Placing her hands on her stomach, she concentrates. The young woman seems to gather her strength to explain. Kneeling, Wangqiu reveals his innate ability. She was born with the ability to track and capture shadows. Satisfied, the master finally accepts her. From that day onwards, she would be his second disciple. The girl humbly thanks for the chance. Wangqiu reinforces that his life belongs to his elders. Humbly, Wangqiu bows before his new master. The master touches the girl's chin. She seems surprised by the sudden gesture. He asks if she will still call him older. Stammering, the young woman responds by calling him master. Thinking he notices that she has lost her memory, even so, he calls her to be stand of 10,000 souls. Back to the present, he extends his hand to Wangqiu. Su-bai orders her to become his servant and suffer eternally. The boy holds the girl's wrist tightly. Scared, Wonkyu holds Subai's hand. She warns that something terrible is coming and they need to leave soon. Surprised, Subai just stares at the girl in silence. A slight smile appears on the protagonist's face. The protagonist is laughing out loud. Wonkyu doesn't understand anything in the classroom. Subai thoughtfully notices the girl's rare spiritual body. It would be a waste to eliminate her now. Better to use her as a chess piece. When it loses its value, it becomes the banner of 10,000 souls. Suddenly, a monstrous greenish foot lands on the roof of the building. Up there, a bizarre lizard watches everything. The place seems to emanate spiritual power. Fortunately, those who don't have power don't become one of these things. Half human, half ghost. Crouching, the lizard monster appears ready to attack. He hopes not to be disappointed. Something hits the ground with force, creating a crack. Crossing the concrete, the giant lizard invades the place. Pieces of ceiling fly everywhere. Observing, Subai wonders if this is the creature Wonkyu mentioned. It would be a mutated serpent demon. Yet something feels strangely familiar to him. Below, chaos ensues with the giant monster. Students run around desperate and confused. Screams echo asking where the freak came from. Nobody wants to be left behind. Desperate, some students try to force a door. Cursing, they realize that it won't open. Inside the room, Wonkyu points to the creature. She warns Subai that she saw him earlier at the artificial lake. The girl confirms that the smell is identical. There is no mistake. Subai wonders how this thing has spiritual energy. It's definitely no ordinary mutant beast. Perhaps it is a monster from the world of immortality. He wonders how he got here. The creature comments that the place has no aura, yet it is full of worms that are neither human nor ghosts. However, the place is happier than the world of immortals. The freak grabs a student with its tail. The monster says that it can take advantage of humans at will. There are no immortal cultivators on the path. This snack will last for many days. Holding the human aloft, the creature prepares itself. The student screams desperately for help. He begs because he doesn't want to meet his creator. Desperately, a woman begs Subai. She calls him a colleague asking to save the student. As long as he doesn't take damage, she will do anything. The protagonist remains silent for a moment. He then questions what their life or passage has to do with him. The girl offers money saying she can pay for the protection. Subai refuses, saying he is not interested in these things. But he warns them not to worry, because if they leave, he will take their souls. Hearing this, the lizard monster seems to react. A strange sound echoes around the place. Suddenly, the creature opens its eyes wide in surprise. A blurred figure quickly advances towards you. The figure hits the lizard monster's head squarely. The impact is strong and direct. With force, the lizard monster is thrown to the ground. The impact creates a small crater and scatters debris across the room. The mysterious figure lands on the back of the downed creature. Its long claws stand out in the dynamic pose. Standing on the lizard, we can better see the attacker. He seems to absorb something from the defeated monster beneath his feet. A close-up reveals the lizard's wide eye, surprise and shock written across his reptilian expression. By grabbing him, the reptile attacks him and demonstrates his superior strength. Lifting the lizard's inert body, the attacker displays it. Subai and Wonkyu watch the scene closely. The lizard monster thinks in surprise about the aura present. He confirms that he felt spiritual energy and did not expect cultivators there. Subai watches the new monster holding his spear. He assesses the creature as weak, but perhaps enough for something. The attacker then lunges at the lizard's head. With a quick movement, the lizard's body is thrown to the side. Turning to the creature, Subai questions if it came for him. His only option, then, would be to finish her off. Outside the building shows signs of the battle. A trail of destruction cuts through the structure, indicating the force involved. Subai disdains the lizard level, calling it foundation stage trash. In the past, he wouldn't even bother attacking something like that. However, his current cultivation is only at the spiritual sea realm. Noticing the survivors, the creature clicks its tongue. They also have their uses for the monster. Collecting his souls and refining them will be enough for him to advance in level. Unfortunately, Subai admits to not being able to deal with the creature at the moment, so the survivors will have to fend for themselves. However, he offers an alternative if you are willing to join your banner of 10,000 souls to help you move forward. So perhaps there is a glimmer of hope for them. Of course, he also mentions that they can simply decline his offer. In that case, Subai could leave and no one would be able to stop him. However, the consequences would only be for the survivors. Their faces demonstrate fear and indecision when faced with the choice. Since no one seems willing to sacrifice themselves, Subai prepares to leave. However, Wonkyu calls him by name. interrupting his exit. At that moment, the teacher grabs Wankyu's arm, stopping her. Teacher La holds Wankyu and says to leave it to her. The teacher asks Su-bai to take her students away from here. With her hand on her chest, the teacher touches a necklace. The pendant glows with a purple light. Su-bai's gaze widens in surprise. He recognizes the item as a spiritual stone. In a quick movement, Su-bai grabs the teacher's hand. He asks where she got that object. Professor Lai explains that it was something her father found by chance. This happened many years ago. Then she removes the necklace. She offers the necklace to Su-bai, saying he can have the item. In return, she only asks him to protect her students. Su-bai confirms that the item came from the immortal realm. Its quality is not low either. The spiritual power contained within it is comparable to a top-tier spiritual stone. Su-bai wonders how this item ended up in this world. This would mean that his rebirth and Lin Wankyu's were no coincidence. If that is the case, then probably his other disciples are also in this world. Suddenly, a blue notification appears in front of the protagonist. The system has detected the spiritual stone's reaction and asks if he wants to use it. Using spiritual stones can enhance the 10,000 souls banner. This also benefits the host and increases the level of the undead by 1. Su-bai thinks he needs to get more of them. Accepting the item, Su-bai confirms that the deal is closed. He asks the girls to wait there and not run away. With an angry look, the snake monster manifests. He asks how dare Su-bai steal something that was his. The creature then goes up, calling Su-bai an immortal cultivator. The monster shouts that he will refine it in an instant. Calmly, Su-bai sits in a meditation position. He orders his summoned creature to protect him from the attack. In a blur, the creature summoned by Su-bai advances quickly. She positions herself to block the enemy's blow. A direct confrontation between the two creatures then takes place. The collision between the two beings is violent. Su-bai's lackey tries to contain the snake monster's advance. The snake monster easily stops the opponent's attack. He belittles the lackey by calling him a little thing. The snake monster lands a powerful blow on the minion. The summoned creature feels the impact. With a superior gaze, the serpent creature observes. Meanwhile, Su-bai meditates quietly. Your purple aura becomes stronger, surprising the enemy. The monster thinks he needs to end this quickly. Calling the minion a troublesome insect, the snake monster attacks again. With a scream of fury, the creature smashes the ground with its fist, hurting Su-bai's servant. The impact launches the minion into the newly formed crater. Victorious, the snake monster mocks, asking where the minion can run to now. Turning his attention to Su-bai, the monster advances, shouting that he will suffer the same fate. Stopping in front of the seated protagonist, the creature complains about the noise. With a dark face, Su-bai finally speaks. He says his banner of 10,000 souls needs a beast as a sacrifice. With a confident look, Su-bai points at the snake and confirms that she will be the sacrifice. Confused, the snake monster stares at Su-bai. The creature asks what is happening. Unexpectedly, a hand appears from behind. She grips the serpent's head tightly. Revealing his new form, the lackey holds the serpent. Now he is evolutionary class and Su-bai has reached the foundation realm. With a glare, Su-bai orders. He orders the minion to finish off the enemy. Obeying the order, the evolved creature attacks. A powerful punch hits the snake monster's back. Without mercy, the servant bites the enemy. A red broth begins to ooze from the wound. The minion then spins around and slams the monster into the ground. The impact opens a new crater at the site. Demonstrating its strength, the creature lifts the serpent. He prepares her for another devastating blow. With violence, the minion throws the enemy. The serpent crashes into the ground with a cracking sound. After the violent throw, the serpent is thrown far away. The monster breaks through debris with the force of the impact. Desperately, the monster tries to stop. The sharp claws dig into the edge of the structure. Hanging on the building, the enemy resists. Red marks show battle wounds. From above, the minion faces his opponent. The creature admits to having underestimated evolution during the fight. However, the serpent reveals that it has its cards up its sleeve. He asks if the footman thinks he wasn't prepared. With glowing eyes, he summons reinforcements. The monster calls his family to help him against the humans. On top of a destroyed building, the greenish monster screams for his family, summoning everyone to help him wipe out the humans. Quickly, some nearby humans are brutally shot in the chest. With a sinister smile, the traitor Lemingxuan declares that he will obey the orders received. Shocked, the surrounding survivors shout that Lemingxuan eliminated someone. They question the reason for their actions in confusion. Imposing, Lemingxuan remains standing over two bodies lying on the ground, demonstrating his cruelty. Revealing your true nature, the villain claims that everyone is a bunch of trash. that he's tolerated them for too long and feels great about betraying them. Facing the terrified crowd, Lee Ming-swan observes the fear in the eyes of his former companions. Without hesitation, the monster charges at the defenseless humans who beg for their lives. He laughs sadistically, stating that the pleasure of controlling their destiny is incredible and that today everyone will know the end. Fallen on the floor, the teacher watches the scene in disbelief. She wonders how the situation could get to this point. At that moment, Su-dae appears accompanied by the blonde. She promptly warns him that the traitor Lee Ming-swan is present at the place. With a slight smile, Su-dae comments that the situation is quite interesting, because I didn't expect to see humans willingly becoming followers of monsters. In front of several inert bodies, Lee Ming-swan continues his insane speech, ordering you to eliminate more, for in the end everyone will become puppets under his banner of 10,000 souls. Boldly, the teacher stands up and confronts Lee Ming-swan, demanding that he stop immediately, and stating that he will not allow him to continue his reckless actions. With disdain, Lee Ming-swan grabs her by the collar. He mocks her by saying that she doesn't know what's good for herself, wondering if she has that much desire to meet her end. Preparing for the final blow, the villain smiles devilishly at the defenseless woman, and he declares that he will gladly give you that taste. Lee Ming-swan advances with his claws, ready for the final blow against the teacher. At that time, the blonde goes to the teacher, advising that she should calm everyone down, because now they can only trust Mr. Su-dae. Su-dae thinks to himself, others can go, but that woman cannot. He needs it to find another spiritual stone. Suddenly, a blue energy appears in Su-dae. He summons a spear with a skull on the tip, the banner of 10,000 souls. With a command from Su-dae, the banner releases its energy, hitting the transformed humans around who fall inert. Lee Ming-swan watches the scene in amazement. He wonders what the hell that gun is. Su-dae faces the traitor, stating that he waited a long time for the boss to come. Now you don't have to worry anymore. With superior air, Lee Ming-swan questions what Su-dae can do, since he no longer has the monster's protection. Su-dae demonstrates his complete disregard for the villain's trust. The banner souls rush at Lee Ming-swan. He shouts asking why Su-dae wants to submit him. They invite you to join. The spectral figures grab Lee Ming-swan. One ironizes. He wonders if they wouldn't be brothers forever, and now is the chance. Desperate, Lee Ming-swan shouts to the souls. Ask if you haven't eliminated them. He orders them to leave, calling them wandering ghosts. With his face contorted in terror and pain, Lee Ming-swan is overwhelmed by the vengeful souls. Observing the scene from afar, Su-dae remains calm, while Lee Ming-swan shouts, "Damn you," repeatedly. Surprisingly, the greenish monster appears. He questions what he sees, recognizing the banner of 10,000 souls. The green monster questions whether Su-dae really plans to use that kind of trash magic weapon against him. He still asks if Su-dae believes he is made of clay. Su-dae, surrounded by a blue aura and accompanied by his followers, counters the monster's comment. He claims that the creature still doesn't really know him. With a determined look, Su-dae declares that his banner of 10,000 souls still needs a spirit like that of the monster to serve as a sacrifice. Meanwhile, Lee Ming-swan, in his altered form, desperately screams for help to his boss, the greenish monster. The green creature then reflects on his bad luck. He regrets meeting an immortality cultivator who turned out to be a demonic cultivator, finding it all very troublesome. Realizing that Su-dae has also reached the foundation building stage, the monster decides that the best thing to do is to escape. Otherwise, you will not obtain spiritual energy and will only get into more confusion. Clinging to the creature's leg, Lee Ming-swan once again begs his boss to save him from the situation. Suddenly, the monster's gigantic hand grabs Lee Ming-swan, who shows surprise at the unexpected action. Holding his subordinate, Lee Ming-swan asks what the boss is doing. The monster responds that he gave him strength, and now. The monster completes his sentence, stating that it is time for Lee Ming-swan to help him. Then he throws the traitor towards Su-dae. Su-dae watches with cold calm as Lee Ming-swan flies through the air towards him. The monster comments that the idea is difficult to control and that the wind is strong, justifying the throw. With a penetrating look, Su-dae looks at the creature and simply asks if it intends to leave. In a quick movement, Su-dae asks if he gave permission for the monster to leave. The banner then advances, hitting the creature squarely. Su-dae's giant servant advances towards the green monster. The servant with its giant claws jumps towards the enemy. The servant then hits the monster with a powerful blow. The impact is so strong that it breaks the floor. The creature is thrown back violently. It passes through an entire building, causing a lot of destruction. Amidst the dust, the green monster finds himself trapped by shadowy tentacles. Su Dai then says he caught him. Several humanoid figures, looking like statues, float around. They help to imprison the creature. Su Dai's giant servant appears again, crushing the green monster against the ground. The creature appears immobilized. Watching from afar, one of Su Dai's followers celebrates. She shouts that Su Dai has finally captured the monster. The green monster, trapped, admits defeat for today. However, he warns Su Dai not to think that this will be enough to stop him. With a challenging look, the creature tells Su Dai to keep dreaming if he thinks he has captured him. The monster then reveals that, like golden cicadas, it can also shed its skin. He calls Su Dai and his followers fools for not expecting this. Meanwhile, Le Mingxuan, now looking decrepit, runs desperately. He shouts for his boss, the green monster, to wait for him, as he hasn't left yet. However, before he can get very far, Le Mingxuan is intercepted. It looks like your escape won't be so easy. Su Dai's followers surround Le Mingxuan, questioning whether he really thought he could escape after everything he did. One of them declares that Li Mingxuan's fate is sealed and orders them to eliminate him. Desperate, Li Mingxuan shouts for them not to come any closer. He threatens to wipe them all out, whether he believes in his ability or not. From afar, the screams of Li Mingxuan being beaten can be heard. One of the followers then asks Su Dai if he is really going to let the creature escape, and if that is right. Su Dai answers the question about letting the monster escape. He says she is overestimating him too much, questioning whether a mere serpent demon can escape his spiritual block. With a serious look, Su Dai declares that it is time to end this charade. Meanwhile, the green creature begins to shed its skin, revealing a new form underneath. The monster, now in its new form, celebrates having escaped. He wonders where the hell Su Dai, the evil cultivator, came from and if he was also dragged to that place. The creature then says that once it leaves there, the sky will be high for birds to fly. He finishes by stating that Su Dai, a mere foundation stage immortal cultivator, will never meet him. With a surprised expression, the green monster questions whether what he just heard is serious. Su Dai, surrounded by his entities, asks if the monster would like to try running. He challenges you to see if you can escape the reach of your spiritual consciousness. Shocked, the creature exclaims that this is not possible and asks how Su Dai found him. He even questions how Su Dai's spiritual awareness can be so strong, being only at the foundation stage. Su Dai, with an uncomfortable expression, simply complains about how noisy the monster is. With his staff, Su Dai orders his servants to capture the creature. Immediately, the humanoid servants advance, attacking the green monster from multiple angles. The creature is grabbed by the smaller ones, and then a giant claw crushes it against a wall. Su Dai's giant servant delivers a powerful punch, sinking the monster even deeper into the structure. The creature screams in pain, bound by red ribbons as Su Dai watches. He claims the monster's 7 inches is sealed and challenges it to move. Enraged, the green monster shouts that they are an arrogant bunch. He adds that since they don't want to give him an easy life, they can forget about it. Suddenly, toxic green smoke is spat by the creature towards your opponent. Su Dai's servant blocks the monster's attack. Su Dai just calmly watches from below. Laughing, the giant monster states that even with 10,000 souls, Su Dai's body barely formed its foundation. He finishes by saying that if he devours him, his puppets will have no one to move them. Su Dai, with a serious look, retorts that the monster doesn't know if it lives or if it's about to leave. Firmly, he grips his staff, ready for the next action. Using his staff, Su Dai attacks the monster's snake form. The snake, with a shocked expression, wonders how that could be possible. In the creature's eye, Su Dai's reflection appears. She thinks that her snake shadow clone is difficult to detect even for a Yuaning stage master and questions who Su Dai is. Su Dai comments that the monster is very noisy. He says that if it weren't for his mouth, he would still be of some use, and that he has already scared him enough. He then orders his banner to capture the creature's soul. From Su Dai's staff, blue streams of spiritual energy quickly emerge. The serpent creature is wrapped in chains, screaming that it does not accept its fate. She declares that even if she leaves, she will never surrender. The monster's greenish soul begins to be extracted by the currents. In desperation, he invites Su Dai to accompany him on his departure. Observing the creature's attempt, Su Dai questions whether it really wants to self-destruct in front of him. Su Dai, with a golden glow on his finger, asks what would happen if this seat didn't exist. An imposing golden figure appears behind Su Dai, emanating overwhelming power. The serpent, still trapped, wonders what that manifestation is. The serpent, terrified, corrects himself, asking if that is the power of a god. She questions whether she provoked a deity. Trapped by the blue chains and under the banner's skull, The creature begs to be let go, she admits her mistake, and calls out to her ancestors. Quickly, the skull atop Sudai's banner moves forward and consumes the greenish soul of the disappearing serpent. A notification appears congratulating the host for defeating an advanced creature. The 10,000 Souls banner has been improved. Another system message appears, informing that the level has risen to the 3rd. Enhanced mode has been unlocked. Sudai displays a confident smile at the news. The system explains that he can feed his undead spiritual power items to increase their level. Holding up his banner, Sudai reflects that he did not expect to directly feed the servants with spiritual stones. He realizes he can create an army quickly. As the banner emits a glow, Sudai decides that finding the spiritual stone has become a priority in his plans. With a determined look, he thinks about waiting until he has enough power to protect himself in this world. Now it's time to find your good waiters. In the destroyed school, Master Li calls for Wonkyu. She questions whether it is dangerous for Sudai to chase the monster, but Wonkyu assures her that he will be fine. Master Li notes Wonkyu's confidence and asks how she knows Sudai. The girl reveals that he saved her from a monster during the chaos. Wonkyu adds that it's a little strange. When he met Lord Sudai, he felt a strange sense of déjà vu. Suddenly, Sudai returns and Wonkyu greets him excitedly. Master Lai asks if the monster hurt him in any way. With a tap on Wankyu's head, Sudai wonders if she underestimates him that much. He asks if she thinks he would get hurt by that. Discreetly, Sudai takes out a small, bright purple stone from his pocket. Showing the purple stone to the two, Sudai asks Master Lai if she knows where to get more of this item. The master responds that the stone belonged to her father. She doesn't know exactly where he got it from and suggests Sudai ask him directly. Sudai then questions where her father is. Master Li proposes that if he really wants to find his father, perhaps they need to make a second deal. She reveals that the last time she spoke to her father was 3 days ago. He was trapped somewhere, and to get information, Sudai will have to help her find him. Sudai ponders whether the woman wants to use him to save people. However, he decides that as long as he discovers the whereabouts of the spiritual stone, wasting a little time is not a big problem. Wonkyu is surprised by the decision. With a serious look, he warns that if he finds out that he is being deceived, not only her, but everyone, including his father, will face the consequences. Master Lei assures him that she understands and that he doesn't need to worry. She claims that her father will not disappoint him. Then, Master Li calls her classmates, announcing that they will leave with Lord Sudai. Relieved, some comment that they are finally leaving, thinking they would stay there forever. The students thank him emotionally, some even cry with relief. Suddenly, Sudai notices a group of people who could not resist the recent events. Holding up his banner, the necromancer declares that those souls cannot be wasted. With a shout, Sudai summons the souls to join him. The 10,000 Souls banner shines brightly and blue chains emerge from it. The chains quickly wrap around the souls of the fallen, binding them. In an instant, the greenish souls are pulled into the banner while the survivors watch the scene in amazement. The skull on the banner glows with intense green eyes, emitting a high-pitched sound. A system notification appears. He gained 5 more undead and his control ability reached the maximum 10. Sudai raises the banner. The survivors, including Wonkyu and Master Lai, watch the scene in amazement. A student, still shaken, asks Lord Sudai what he did with those souls. Sudai casually rests the banner on his shoulder. He explains that his nature is to make the most of everything. The souls on the banner will become puppets under your control. He then rushes the group, saying he has no time to waste. Walking through the destroyed streets, a student thanks Sudai. Without him, they wouldn't have left the room. Another comments that they would die of hunger anyway. Sudai says not to worry and take what they need. Sudai thinks to himself, his cultivation had reached the foundation, building stage, and his spiritual consciousness had partially recovered. Now he can create better magical weapons. He decides he needs to test this. Facing a blue portal, Sudai hopes to extract something useful. His hand reaches for the portal. Images of magical items like swords and talismans float from within it. His eyes glow blue as he concentrates and says, "Now." A sword appears in his hand. Wonkyu, amazed, asks if this is the work of a god, while Sudai analyzes the item. Wonkyu takes the sword and asks Sudai where he found it. She feels like she has seen this sword before. Observing Wonkyu's reaction, Sudai wonders if this is a sign. Maybe her memories are coming back. Sudai finds the situation interesting. If Wonkyu really recovers his memory, it will be in his hands. He reflects that it would be like a lamb going to the slaughter. Questioning herself, Sudai ponders what her opinion will be about this sword. Sudai then decides to leave the item in Wonkyu's custody. Surprised, the girl asks if he is serious. The girl refuses, asking Lord Sudai why she would need the sword. She even asks if he expects her to deal with the monsters. Masterly questions the reason for the refusal. Sudai responds that Wonkyu cannot expect eternal protection from him. A gleam of understanding appears in Wonkyu's eyes. The young woman gives in and accepts the sword. She comments that she has never used it and asks Sudai to teach her later. His hand then firmly grasps the hilt of the sword. Upon touching the weapon, Wonkyu shows surprise and confusion. Suddenly, a vivid memory floods Wonkyu's mind. In the vision, she desperately screams, "Master, stop!" A male voice echoes, promising to find a way to track and capture shadows in Tuzao. He assures her that from now on, he will be the sword in her hand and will never disappoint her. The vision of the past continues, with the master asking if she still calls him greatest. Back in the present, a visibly shocked Wonkyu stutters, "Master," as Sudai watches. Suddenly the girl is frightened when she sees the shadow of her master appearing behind her. With her eyes rolling back, the girl then faints and begins to fall to the ground. On the floor, everyone sees the unconscious girl, while a woman screams her name in despair. Furious, our protagonist summons his serpent spirit by shouting the girl's name. Your spirit creature gets angry and prepares to pounce on someone. It turns out that the animal starts to wrap itself around the body of the girl, who is lying down. Everyone there is shocked by the scene as a dark energy surrounds them. The woman with glasses then grabs his arm and asks the boy to stop it. However, the snake continues to squeeze the body of the young woman, who struggles in pain. With her face red, she screams in agony because of the pressure on her body. Desperate, the girl begs the protagonist to help her because her monster has gone mad. Ignoring the requests, he points his spear very close to the blonde's neck. Crouching down, the guy asks if she has managed to recover her memories. Still being crushed, the girl asks, confused, what he is talking about now. The woman with glasses then kneels down, begging him to save the girl because she is good. Our hero thinks that her reaction doesn't seem fake, and maybe it was just a slip of the tongue. So he decides he'll check it out himself and puts his hand on her forehead. A red light shines as the boy begins to investigate the young girl's memories. Opening his eyes, the protagonist seems to have come to an important conclusion. He realizes that memories don't lie, and that she really doesn't remember anything. Holding the young woman, the woman with glasses calls him, confused by the whole situation. With his spear in hand, the protagonist decides it is best to leave this aside for now. Then the spirit serpent disappears, leaving the girl relieved and feeling better. He says that the spear is of no use to her and that it is better not to waste any more time there. The girl wonders why she called the guy master and feels a familiar dread. The hero wonders whether this is fate or a trap and vows to find out the truth. After a while, the group arrives in a completely destroyed and empty urban area. The teacher explains that there is one of her family's companies where her father disappeared. With a confident smile, the boy says that they need to take a look at the place. The other students say they won't go in because they would only get in the way of the mission. He comments that his contract was just to get them out of school, and the rest is not his problem. The teacher looks back, worried about the students, but decides to follow the young man. She then tells them to stay there, and that she will take them to a safe shelter later. The students nod as the woman runs to catch up with the other two. From afar, the trio watches the group move away towards the city center. As soon as they disappear from sight, the young people relax, and one of them curses the protagonist. Meanwhile, our hero and the two girls continue walking through the deserted streets. Suddenly, the blonde girl stops walking and asks them to wait a bit. She looks up with a sense of foreboding and warns that something is coming towards them. Unexpectedly, soldiers appear, shouting for them to run away and not come closer. The teacher is happy because she thinks they are the rescue team that came to help. Our hero, however, decides that it is best to leave at least one of them alive to talk. Then his giant snake appears in the middle of the street and starts fighting. The soldiers are terrified when they realize that more creatures are coming from behind. The captain then shouts for everyone to spread out and not let the animals surround them. A chaotic battle ensues as the military fires at the advancing creatures. Suddenly, a giant shadowy hand appears and prepares to crush a horde. With a single blow, the hand crushes several monsters at once, clearing the area. Meanwhile, the snake takes the chance and bites into a bunch of creatures. She devours all enemies in her path without any apparent difficulty. Hidden, the soldiers are shocked because it seems that the monsters are fighting among themselves. In the background, the creatures continue to face each other in a violent and chaotic battle. The leader tells them to retreat while the animals are distracted and wait for reinforcements. A recruit asks if people with powers are as strong as rumors say. The captain replies that they didn't see how terrible these S-rank people are. He remembers that a single person like that is capable of facing an army of thousands. Shocked soldier wonders if these individuals are truly superhumans. Spying on a soldier, he sees the group walking and wonders why the monsters ignore them. He realizes that the creatures actually seem to be protecting the trio from danger. From afar, a sniper carefully aims at our protagonist's head. A hidden soldier shouts for the group to identify themselves or they will start shooting. The military points their weapons at the trio, who are surrounded by defeated monsters. One of the soldiers asks his captain if they should really shoot at the group. With his finger on the trigger, the man prepares to follow any order he receives. The captain, however, stops him and says that this person is beyond their reach. He introduces himself as the team leader and asks if the hero has been sent to help them. The protagonist stops walking and looks at the soldiers with a look of contempt. He then asks what an esper is, leaving the captain completely confused. The military thinks that if they are not registered espers, then they must be dangerous. The teacher comes forward and explains that they are there looking for their father. The captain recognizes the name and says it is on the list with important information. The boy asks if he knows the location, and the soldier confirms, but it is a difficult place. Suddenly, a new horde of creatures appears running towards them. He screams in despair as they are now completely surrounded by the monsters. The troop leader begs the hero to help them at least send a message. The protagonist agrees to help them, but in exchange they must take him to his target. Then he gives the order to his spirit creatures to crush all enemies. The monster charges forward and begins to tear enemies to pieces with its claws. Meanwhile, the serpent spits a blast of fire that incinerates everything in its path. The soldiers watch in shock at the power of an esper and feel useless. The captain explains that not all espers are that strong and that this guy is top-notch. He also says that he has never seen anyone control monsters like this and his level must be high. Suddenly, the blonde girl warns everyone to be careful because something is approaching. The serpent and the soldiers look up, realizing that the threat comes from the sky. Then a giant armored foot descends from the heavens, declaring that no one may invade. The impact of the landing is so strong that the ground breaks into several pieces. A giant skeleton knight appears, and the soldiers are terrified because they didn't know about him. Our hero recognizes the creature's aura and is surprised by its great power. The knight presents himself as the guardian of the place and threatens anyone who dares to invade his territory. The teacher asks what they will do now, while the military prepares for the fight. The boy smiles as he realizes that the creature is a rare and intelligent undead. He orders everyone to retreat and warns that the creature is now his prey. He thinks that by capturing her, he will have the chance to create his own army of undead. With an army like that, his battle power would increase greatly, so he orders the attack. His two spirit creatures quickly advance to attack the giant knight. The skeleton realizes that the human controls the undead and considers him very dangerous. Without difficulty, the knight blocks the creature's attack with a shockwave. He declares himself the master of the undead and challenges the protagonist's authority. A powerful green aura begins to emanate from the skeletal knight's body. The hero realizes that the enemy's power is immense and wonders where it came from. On top of a building, a mysterious man watches the battle unfold. With a smile on his face, he thinks his master will be happy with the new prey. A dark entity appears, and he reports having encountered a cultivator who controls the dead. The entity orders him to capture it, and in return he will be rewarded by his master. Meanwhile, the two girls scream in despair in fear of the skeleton knight. The blonde clings to the hero, saying that she will die by his side if necessary. Our hero says that even without his powers, he is not an opponent to be underestimated. He then summons a sword made of pure blue energy and prepares for combat. Suddenly, a giant energy avatar appears behind him and assumes an attacking stance. The knight tries to defend himself from the blow of the giant sword, but is pushed back. The skeleton is shocked by the overwhelming power he is suddenly facing. He can't believe it and recognizes the technique as a high-level secret move. The soldiers are also terrified because he is stronger than any esper they have ever seen. The boy thinks it was worth spending his energy to get a new servant. Seeing the secret technique, the knight realizes that he cannot win and decides to flee. Our hero asks if he really thinks he can escape and summons another sword. He then launches a powerful attack that takes the form of a fiery phoenix. The fire creature advances at high speed towards the enemy who was trying to escape. The skeleton knight turns around and is completely terrified by what he sees. He recognizes the divine weapon and regrets having faced someone so powerful. The knight is hit squarely by our hero's powerful fire phoenix. The blonde asks if he summoned a phoenix, and the teacher is impressed by his power. With the staff in hand, the protagonist prepares to finish off his opponent. Chains of energy bind the knight, who shouts that he will not be enslaved. He realizes that following the boy is better and accepts his fate, even though he is reluctant. The knight's soul is then absorbed by the protagonist's staff, becoming his servant. The hero coughs a little because he used a lot of energy and his level ended up dropping a little. The spirit in the staff offers to help its master regain some strength. By absorbing the energy, the guy can level up and feel much stronger. He smiles, realizing that the souls in his staff can give him extra power. The boy thanks him for his help, and the new servant swears loyalty, asking for his trust. The knight thinks that his master was once very powerful and that he can return to his peak. He understands that if he serves his new master well, he can also become stronger. The blonde girl approaches, worried because she saw him coughing up blood a while ago. He reflects that the past doesn't matter, and his focus is on understanding the world and becoming stronger. The hero asks the captain to take them to their target, and the soldier promptly complies. Along the way, they encounter more zombies that seem to have no end blocking the way. The protagonist gets irritated with so many weak enemies, and the spirit complains too. To solve the problem, the skeleton knight is summoned in his complete form. He yells at the zombies, calling them fools and ordering them to kneel before their master. Immediately, the entire horde of creatures kneels before their new master. The group then walks calmly down the street, with the zombies clearing the way. The soldiers are shocked as they did not expect the zombies to bow down. The bespectacled teacher reflects on the boy's power and whether he will be a new hero. Elsewhere, we see a building with very traditional and old architecture. A man is shocked to receive news that his skeleton lord has been defeated. The servant assures him that it is true and shows some footage of the battle to his master. The man in purple robes recognizes the techniques and the sword used in the confrontation. He realizes that his master has also come to this world and is more advanced than him. The dark entity orders his servant to kill the hero when he enters the base. The group finally reaches the building, but it is surrounded by many zombies. Inside, some people see the group arriving and are excited about the chance of rescue. Suddenly, the blonde girl points to the sky and shouts for the hero to be careful. A strange weapon that looks like a spinning top comes flying at high speed. The skeleton knight then appears and tells his master not to worry about it. With his shield, he manages to block the attack of the mysterious spinning top that hits him. Suddenly, a mysterious man appears and attacks the knight from behind with a blow. The man is shocked to see the skeleton lord and asks how he survived. The knight tells him to shut up and says that he is now his new master. The man in the hat just scoffs and asks if he thinks he can give him orders. The man in the hat orders his skeletons to attack, promising a great reward. Our hero analyzes the enemy and realizes that he has a power similar to that of the knight. He then turns to the blonde girl and tells her to pay close attention to what's coming. The boy again uses his fire phoenix technique to attack the enemy in front of him. The girl feels that the name of the scam is familiar, but cannot remember where she knows it from. The villain is paralyzed with fear when he realizes that he is in front of a divine weapon. Without trying, the hero says that now the rest is up to his new skeleton servant. With shining eyes, the knight is grateful for the chance to finish off that worm. The skeleton approaches the enemy, who now begs for his life in great fear. Without mercy, the knight attacks the man with his giant sword to end everything. A system window appears congratulating you on defeating a commander monster. He is a bit frustrated because he gained experience but didn't level up with the victory. The boy tells his servant that he can have the blood zombie's body. The skeleton kneels and thanks his master, swearing eternal loyalty to him. With a blast of energy, he absorbs the enemy and thinks about how lucky he was to surrender. After absorbing the enemy, his power increases and he says he can now fight 10 equals. Inside the building, people celebrate with relief at having been saved by the hero. Suddenly, they look out the window and see a strange shadow approaching. In the blink of an eye, the building's window is completely shattered by something. A giant skeleton monster with wings then lands on the destroyed building. With its wings open, the monster screams and scares everyone in the building. The knight warns his master and says that if he kills him, he will be able to level up. The survivors panic because they know that not even the hero can win. The girl remembers that a team of espers was annihilated by him in seconds. The teacher's father asks everyone to calm down and trust the boy. The purple-haired man watches from afar, wanting to see how the hero will deal with this. The bird monster says that the boy will be his food to become even stronger. He quickly flies towards our hero to attack him with his claws. Suddenly, several other bird monsters of different colors appear in the sky. The red creature lets out a very powerful sonic scream that reaches everyone. The two girls fall to the ground feeling a very strong headache because of the scream. The knight explains that each bird has a different power and that they are very strong. The hero feels that his power is being suppressed and that the situation is complicated. He tells his servant that he promised to fight 10, so now is the time. The knight advances and manages to hold one of the monsters with his bare hands. Another bird attacks him from behind, but he manages to defend himself with his shield. A third monster then fires a beam of energy towards our hero. He prepares to attack using the second form of his phoenix sword. With a quick movement, he creates an energy cut that goes towards the enemy. The blow creates a powerful whirlwind that sucks the monster inside and defeats it. Taking advantage of the distraction, one of the monsters manages to land a blow on the boy. The sonic wave affected his power, and he can no longer use his avatar so as not to hurt his soul. Our MC figures that if he's taken down demon kings before, these birds are just a matter of time. He thinks if he can just disrupt the sound effect and use his wind sword, he'll have a shot at turning the tables. Then, a mysterious woman appears, and with a single command, she sends her own monsters into the fight. The new creatures charge forward and attack the bird skeletons, creating total chaos on the battlefield. But our hero is still getting rocked by the sound, feeling his body being crushed by the intense sonic wave. The winged creature taunts him, asking if he really thinks he can stop the sound with his weakened power. Just then, his skeleton servant glares at the bird and asks if that's the best the enemy's trump card can do. The monster snaps back that the knight is just putting on a brave face and slugs him with a powerful punch to the chest. Meanwhile, the sonic scream takes out the girls and the soldier, who are all down on the ground in agony. Watching from a distance, the guy in purple laughs, thinking the kid has no chance and is in for a long, slow defeat. The teacher's dad yells from the window, begging the young man to get out of there and take his daughter with him. But our hero looks determined, wondering if he'll have to use that secret technique to win this fight. Suddenly, a simple wooden stick is thrown at high speed toward one of the birds. The twig smacks the red creature right in the head, making its deafening scream finally stop. Right after, a blonde woman appears on the scene, yelling at the monsters for making such a racket. The blonde woman attacks one of the creatures with a piece of wood, destroying part of its body. With the sound gone, the blonde girl gets up, and the teacher asks if it was our hero who saved them. Everyone stares at the new ally, who strikes an imposing pose over the defeated monster. The young man thanks her for the help, and the woman says she wants to play with his staff later. Seizing the opportunity, the skeleton knight taunts the bird monster for not being able to scream anymore. He then strikes with his giant sword to finish off the bird that was bugging him. With the sonic wave gone, the protagonist's sword begins to glow intensely with his energy again. He comments that without their special trick, these bony creatures are no big deal. The villain, watching from afar, recognizes the woman and wonders why the heck she's there helping the enemy. The two remaining creatures decide to follow their master's orders and attack the warehouse. Inside the building, the survivors celebrate with relief, thinking they're finally safe. However, the two birds fly at high speed toward the building to attack the survivors. The teacher senses the danger and screams desperately, asking them to save her father who's inside. Our hero understands the old man is important and orders his skeleton servant to stop the attack. The knight charges forward, yelling for the birds to stay away from the building. The skeleton servant manages to block one of the creatures, but the other one zips right past him toward the building. The monster smashes through the window and terrorizes the survivors, who scream desperately for help. Suddenly, the winged creature releases a toxic green smoke that spreads rapidly. The smoke fills the area and knocks people out as the monster laughs at the situation. The teacher's father is caught in the poison and calls out for his daughter as he struggles to breathe. The woman with glasses screams in despair and tries to run for him, but the blonde woman stops her. She watches in horror as her father disappears into the toxic fog, completely helpless. Consumed by grief and rage, she grinds her teeth while crying over the loss of her family member. In that instant, a powerful purple aura explodes around her, signaling an awakening of power. The blonde woman senses the unstable energy and fears the teacher might get hurt by this new power. Our hero also notices the new energy and is surprised she awakened this kind of ability. He catches the fainted woman and says that as an immortal emperor, this is a piece of cake for him. Using his staff, he releases ribbons of energy that wrap around them to begin a stabilization ritual. The young man touches her to guide the energy, thinking that with the right guidance, everything will be more efficient. The blonde warrior watches the scene, finding it all very familiar, but unable to remember from where. The blonde has a vision of her master and wonders why she's feeling something so strange. The warrior feels a bitter sensation and doesn't quite understand what's happening to her. After the ritual, the teacher finally lands on the ground, her power now under control. Then the young man tells the woman with the glasses to test out her new ability and take care of that monster. The skeletal creature scoffs at them, shouting that no one there is capable of stopping it. Ignoring the threat, the winged monster flies toward the group, ready to attack with everything it's got. Filled with rage, the teacher yells that the monster's wings will fail and it will fall to the ground. Immediately, a purple energy envelopes the creature's wings, and it starts to lose control of its flight. The monster then plummets and crashes into the ground, wondering why its wings just gave out. The blonde and the other girl and the knight are all shocked by the bespectacled woman's ability. The woman with the glasses then confirms it, saying her ability makes whatever she says come true. She says her words are the truth and thanks the young man for helping her master her power. Our hero then tells the teacher to go save her father while he and his servant handle the birds. The skeleton knight enthusiastically accepts his master's order and prepares for battle. He charges at the enemy, shouting that he can finally show off his true combat power. Next, our hero uses his magic staff and summons energy chains to capture the monster. With an intense glow, the skeletal creature's soul is absorbed by the staff, becoming a new servant. The villain is annoyed by the monster's defeat, but consoles himself, thinking the mission wasn't a total failure. Then a system window pops up, congratulating the young man and showing that his staff has leveled up. The now tiny bird complains about being captured, and the knight tells him he should feel lucky. The protagonist asks the new creature if there's a way to cure the people from the poison. After a little threat from the skeleton knight, the bird explains that it can suck the poison back out. Meanwhile, the teacher runs barefoot up the stairs to find her father quickly. She reaches the room and sees everyone collapsed on the floor from the toxic smoke that filled the area. Using her newly awakened power, she orders the poison to leave her father's body immediately. The woman with the glasses watches her father closely, but her power doesn't seem to have an immediate effect. Suddenly, she realizes the poison that left her father is now coming straight for her. The power comes at a high price, and the teacher ends up coughing up blood from the immense strain. Our hero explains that this ability is powerful but demands a lot from the user's strength and spirit. He warns her that she got lucky this time and that next time, she might not survive using her power. The protagonist calls the bird over and warns that if the man doesn't survive, it will be destroyed too. Terrified, the creature agrees instantly and flies quickly toward the man to suck out the poison. The skeleton bird begins to draw out the toxic smoke that was coming from the teacher's father's body. With that, it sucks up all the poison that had spread and manages to save the older man's life. The creature explains that it saved him, but since the poison was in his system for so long, there's no telling when he'll wake up. The teacher worries because her father isn't waking up, and she needs information about the spirit stone. Just then, the blonde warrior approaches the young man and says she can feel a source of energy coming from the man. She then gets confused, wondering why she keeps calling the hero Master, and what their connection is. The protagonist opens the man's hand and finds a green stone that's glowing with intense energy. He's surprised to discover that it's a high-quality spirit stone in a world with no energy. The young man hands the stone to the blonde and asks her to hold it and see if she can feel anything. The warrior holds the object, and a green energy surrounds her as she concentrates to feel its power. Suddenly, her eyes go wide as she seems to have located the source of that mysterious energy. The girl points and says the stone came from that direction, about 20 or 30 kilometers away.
Our hero decides to head to the location, but the teacher says she's staying behind to look after her father. As he's about to leave, the blonde warrior stops him, asking him to wait a moment. With a seductive look, she asks if he remembers his promise to lend her his staff. Without hesitating, the young man simply holds out his weapon and hands it to the woman. She then grips the staff firmly, preparing to use her special ability. The girl thinks she can suck the spirits from the weapon and is surprised he didn't even try to protect it. With a confident smile, she decides she'll absorb the energy first and think later. She tries to drain the power, but the skull on the staff cries out as an energy envelopes her. Suddenly, the warrior's eyes widen in complete shock as something goes wrong. Powerful force throws her to her knees, and she's unable to resist it. The woman wonders why her ability failed and why she got hit with a counterattack. Our hero then grabs his sword and offers it to the girl to play with as well. She looks at the staff, sweating, and admits that his weapon is incredibly powerful and strange. The blonde remembers he used the sword to win and wonders why he's so confident. She can't believe both weapons are so powerful and decides to try her luck with the sword. The moment she grabs the other weapon, intense flames erupt and completely engulf her. A fire phoenix manifests behind the sword, terrifying the warrior with its overwhelming power. She can't handle the energy and ends up spitting blood as she falls to her knees, completely defeated. The girl wonders what kind of weapons these are and who the protagonist really is. Our hero smirks, thinking that her ability to absorb spirits from weapons is pretty common back in his world. But he reveals that his staff and sword are divine weapons, far beyond what she can handle. The blonde gets up and admits with a sigh that the guy's weapons are truly impressive. So, he invites her to join the group, promising her all the weapons they find along the way. The warrior enthusiastically accepts the offer, and the group finally sets off on their next mission. The bird servant complains to the knight, who scolds him for stealing the woman's energy. The skeleton explains that he absorbed the energy to help their master get stronger and break through his limit. With the new energy, the young man levels up to the advanced stage and feels ready for any battle. The captain says goodbye to the group and promises he will protect the teacher and the other survivors. Elsewhere, we see a lavish mansion where a bunch of rich people are trapped with no way out. A horde of zombies crashes the party and violently attacks all the guests, who run in a panic. A wealthy man hugs his daughter in desperation, begging for someone to save his family. Suddenly, a mysterious shadow appears in the middle of all the chaos unfolding at the location. With a single swing of his sword, a man in blue defeats all the zombies at once. The survivors cheer with relief, and the wealthy man calls the newcomer the God of War. The savior greets the pink-haired girl, and her father asks if they know each other. The man in blue says she is his dear junior sister and affectionately pats her on the head. The girl then has a flashback and remembers her past life with him and the protagonist. Her eyes wide, the girl in the red dress cries out for the figure of her former master. She looks at the man in blue and says she thinks she's starting to remember everything. With a burst of energy and golden coins, the girl finally recovers all her memories. Her companion congratulates her and says they now need to take care of more important matters. The man in blue then flicks out several energy coins with a single motion of his hand. He creates a barrier, and the girl says goodbye to her father, telling him the zombies won't get through. The girl, now in high heels, steps on some rocks in a completely different place. She complains about the air, but her partner says they need to defeat their master to save the world. The girl says that even though she loves her master, she must fight against him for the good of everyone. The man in blue says they need to get the spirit stone from the cave and then finally defeat their master. Meanwhile, the villain in purple reflects that the mission didn't fail, because for him, that word doesn't exist. He thinks that if he defeats the protagonist, his master will reward him, and he can return to his own world. Elsewhere, the hero's group walks down a street full of zombies and people begging for help. The blonde asks if they aren't going to help, but the guy says it's pointless and that the focus is on getting stronger. The group then continues their journey through the devastated land to reach the source of the spirit stone. Suddenly, the blonde warrior senses a large amount of energy approaching them rapidly. On the horizon, a troop of skeletons led by the villain in purple advances toward the group. The man in sunglasses rides his skeletal horse with a serious and determined expression. He greets our hero, accusing him of defeating 3 of his generals and trying to run away. The protagonist just stares back at the enemy with a serious look, seeming unbothered by the accusation. The winged creature trembles in fear seeing its old master, but the knight says they've got a new boss now. So our MC asks his winged servant if he's scared of that guy, and the creature denies it, just waiting for the command. With that, our guy orders his lackeys to attack and test the opponent's strength, and the two of them charge the villain in purple. Watching the attack approach, the man in purple smirks, clearly thinking they're a couple of chumps. With a dark glare, the villain asks how they dare attack him after everything he taught them. Just then, the blonde warrior senses the enemy's mental power and yells for everyone to cover their ears. The woman in black charges forward with her wooden staff, shouting that she's going to take this guy down. But the opponent just smiles, his eyes glowing, and asks why such a pretty lady has to be so rude. Immediately, the warrior's eyes go wide with shock as she's caught by the enemy's ability. The villain's skill forces her to her knees, and she looks completely overwhelmed by his power. Trapped in the illusion, the woman starts crying and calling out for her mother in total despair. RMC then turns to his staff and asks if that guy can really create illusions. The servant explains that the villain's entire body is pure mental control, including his voice and even his eyes. Our guy just smirks, commenting that mind control is neat and all, but protecting yourself from it is no biggie. He then forms a seal with his hands, and a blue energy glows around him as he preps his technique. With that, our guy focuses and completely blocks his own hearing so he won't be affected by the villain. He also shuts down his perception and all his other senses to nullify the enemy's mental ability. The purple-clad adversary then questions how he plans to fight if he can't sense anything around him. But our hero simply ignores him and launches a powerful fire attack right at the enemy. The phoenix flames hit the man in glasses and his skeletal mount dead on. Our protagonist is a little surprised when he realizes the hit didn't have the effect he was hoping for. With a laugh, the villain pops up right behind him, saying he already knows all his tricks and that they won't work on him. Then the opponent extends his hand and orders his army of skeletons to form a barrier around everyone. Suddenly, a bunch of skeletons burst from the ground, surrounding our guy's group and trapping them all. With that, the two girls collapse to the ground again, clutching their heads from a massive headache caused by the attack. The blonde then hugs the other warrior, who's still trapped in the illusion, desperately calling for her mom. At that moment, the skeleton lackey warns his master that they've walked right into the enemy's domain and can't escape anymore. Our hero is shocked, realizing he's fallen into a trap and that things just got way more complicated. Suddenly, our guy is caught in an illusion and finds himself floating in a palace surrounded by several women. All the women are kneeling before him, calling him master with looks of pure admiration. The villain laughs his head off, saying that even if the hero is strong, he'll still be taken down. With a smirk, he says he's curious to see what kind of illusion our guy can possibly cook up. In the illusion, the protagonist is attacked by a blonde woman and a man in black who were his former disciples. The man in purple is shocked to see that our guy was his master, the one who taught him how to fight. He can't believe his master is the hero and wonders why he would have to take out his own teacher. The image of the master in the illusion has a very serious and imposing look that intimidates the enemy. With that, the hero's illusion asks if he's seen enough, calling him someone else's henchman. The adversary is stunned to realize that this illusion seems to have a mind of its own. Then the figure of the master summons a large flaming sword and gets ready for battle. With a swift move, the illusion unleashes a slash of fiery energy toward the man in glasses. Back in reality, our hero says he wasn't aiming at him, but at the illusion he had created. With the tip of the sword at his face, the enemy looks completely defeated and frozen in place. Our guy asks if all of this was for a traitor, and the villain laments being tricked by his own apprentice. With the illusion shattered, the protagonist and his two skeletons get ready for a fight. But the villain, collapsed on the ground, just laughs, saying our guy still won't be able to catch him. The adversary then touches the ground and creates several earth spikes to try and escape the group. He pulls out a fan and says his power isn't just about creating illusions for other people. Laughing like a maniac, he flies away on his fan, saying that the idea of taking out his master's master really gets him excited. Our guy smirks and asks his servants if they've figured out the dude's weak spot, and they both confirm. With a confident smile, the protagonist says that now he truly understands his opponent's soul. He then orders his two skeletal lackeys to attack, and they charge the enemy. The villain scoffs at them, saying they'd need to train for another 100 years to even think about fighting him for real. With his sword, the skeleton knight blocks the attacks, getting annoyed at being underestimated. The winged creature also gets ready to rumble, saying a lot can change in a short amount of time. At this, the man in purple is surprised, feeling that the power of the two lackeys has suddenly surged. Seeing the two of them attack, the adversary can't believe the skeleton has reached a whole new level of power. The knight charges forward, yelling that with his new master, he gets to eat 6 square meals a day. The 2 servants corner the enemy and tell him to surrender, because he's no match for their boss. But the villain just smirks and says he has a special weapon, and that's why they can't beat him. With his fan, he prepares to defend against the skeletons' attack with a confident expression. He yells for the skeletons to get out of his way as he uses the fan to create a powerful gust of wind. Annoyed, the adversary admits defeat and decides it's time to retreat and get out of there. But the blonde warrior suddenly appears and asks if he really thinks he can just get away like that. With her wooden staff, she smacks the enemy's hand hard, making him drop the fan on the ground. The woman then snatches his fan while the villain screams in pain on the ground, completely beaten. Holding the weapon, a blue energy starts to flow into her body as she absorbs all its power. The warrior yells as she feels the energy, and she seems to be really enjoying the new power she just got. Then the woman throws the fan on the ground and stomps on it with her heel, shattering the enemy's weapon. The man in purple is desperate, wondering why his special weapon isn't working anymore. Without a shred of mercy, the blonde lands a powerful kick to the villain's face to end the fight. Afterward, she turns to the protagonist and thanks him for the fan, saying she found it to be a pretty good weapon. Just then, the skeleton knight lands hard on the ground, ready to finish off the enemy. Along with his winch partner, he charges the man in purple, screaming that it's time for him to meet his end. The skeleton servant gets closer and says he's going to eat the guy's soul to get stronger. But the winged creature complains, saying the knight already ate last time and now it's his turn. The winged creature threatens the knight, but the bigger skeleton challenges him to a fight right then and there. At that point, our protagonist shows up and tells them to split the enemy's soul 50-50. With that, the 2 servants bow and accept their master's order without complaining about the decision. They think about how their new boss is way smarter than their old one, and that it's better just be straight with him. The 2 of them then begin to absorb the defeated enemy's soul, feeling the energy flow through them. The bird says it tastes great and that he almost leveled up, and the knight agrees about the flavor. They both kneel and offer the energy to their master, who thanks them for their help. A system window shows that his staff is at level 5, and he can now control 2 bosses. Our guy notices his realm has improved, and that he just needs to find a spirit cave to level up. He creates an energy sphere, and thinks that now he can explore his own mind again with more power. The protagonist concentrates, and is surprised to feel something new in his mind, thinking it's incredible. Elsewhere, the ex-disciples arrive at a cave and feel a strong energy coming from inside. The man in blue notes that the villain was taken down, and that their old master is still as powerful as ever. They enter and find a large cave filled with green crystals shining everywhere. He says that everyone takes the stones from the walls, but they don't know about the place's true core. Deeper inside, they find a waterfall of crystals, and the man says it's a font of spiritual power. The lady in red says the energy is super strong, and he says he knows of 3 more caves just like this one. But just then, the woman hears a noise and realizes more people are approaching. She warns her partner about the visitors, but he tells her not to worry about his illusion. With a wave of his hand, he casts a spell to trick whoever is arriving at the cave. In the illusion, the woman in red accuses her partner of stealing her stones, and the 2 of them fake a fight. Meanwhile, our hero's group finally reaches the entrance of the cave, which is glowing with green energy. The girl in shorts points inside and says the energy is really strong and that they're close. Our protagonist observes the cave entrance with a serious look, getting ready for whatever comes next. He then decides to enter the cave, leading the group into the mysterious, glowing place. Inside, they see that the stones have been stolen, but the girl says the energy is still strong. Our guy deduces there must be a source of power and asks the girl to lead him toward the energy. The blonde warrior wonders what this source is, but figures it's probably going to be something fun. The skeletons are celebrating like crazy, because with this power source, they'll be able to level up easily. Then our hero smashes through a rock wall with a single punch to clear a path to the energy source. After opening the hole, the group sees 2 men fighting over a divine weapon inside the cave. The blonde warrior recognizes the fighters as Iron Arm and Bronze Leg, and our hero is pretty surprised. She explains that those 2 were the first to become espers and that not even rockets can hurt their bodies. Our guy thinks the rescue team's weapons could probably handle them, but that the 2 are definitely tough. They look at the twig that's the cause of the fight, and our hero realizes the 2 are trapped in an illusion. The girl in shorts points deeper in the cave and says the strong energy is coming from over there. But she comments that she smells something familiar, and the protagonist asks her about that feeling. Then our guy smiles because his gut feeling was right. His ex-disciples really are in the cave. The two fighters sense the group's presence and decide it's better to just get rid of them quickly. With that, the two men charge full throttle to attack the protagonist's group without a second thought. The blonde warrior says that after absorbing the fan, she's bursting with energy and wants to fight a little. Next thing you know, the woman in black leaps at high speed toward the two opponents. She attacks both of them at the same time with her staff, and the men defend against her strikes. One of the fighters manages to grab the woman's staff with his metal gauntlet, holding it tight. He then recognizes the blonde as the Queen of Arms, and realizes the girl is pretty strong. The fighter smirks, thinking the woman is strong, but not strong enough to beat him. He then attacks with a powerful punch, but the blonde manages to defend herself with her wooden staff. However, the other hooded opponent takes advantage of the distraction and lands a hard kick on her. The warrior retaliates with a spinning kick and manages to send the hooded man flying with the blow. But she falls to the ground in a lot of pain, realizing her leg was badly injured in the attack. Before she can collapse completely, the protagonist appears and catches her in his arms so she doesn't get hurt. He says he'll heal her and orders his two skeletal lackeys to take care of the fighters. With that, the servants and a few more skeletal birds charge the two adversaries with everything they've got. The skeleton knight uses his giant sword to block attacks from both men at the same time. Meanwhile, our hero uses his staff, and red energy ribbons wrap around him and the injured warrior. He says he's going to repair her injuries, but warns her that it might hurt and asks her to hang in there. Our guy then forms a hand seal, and a green healing energy begins to glow intensely. He touches the woman's body, and the green energy flows into her to begin the healing process. The warrior reacts, feeling the healing energy flow through her body and mend the entire wound. She feels the pure, warm energy and wonders who this incredibly powerful man healing her is. The other girl gets a little bit jealous seeing the MC with another woman, and again, she watches the healing scene and wonders when it's going to be her turn to get that kind of attention. Meanwhile, in the battle, one of the men complains about the bird's noise and tells his partner to deal with them. With that, the hooded fighter stomps down hard on the ground to crush one of the skeletons, and with a single blow, he manages to completely destroy one of the birds that was attacking him. His partner then smirks and says the place is a lot quieter now without all that noise. He then lands a powerful punch on the skeleton knight, who's surprised by the force of the hit. But the winged creature attacks back, and the hooded man can't believe he can't seem to beat it. The hooded fighter then stomps hard on the skeletal bird, crushing it completely on the ground. Our hero's servant is shocked and wonders when such powerful espers appeared in the world. The other guy just keeps wailing on the knight, who complains that his old bones are aching from the beatdown. The skeletal birds surround the hooded man, who dodges them, saying they can't catch him. Deeper inside, the two ex-disciples are relaxing in a spring and commenting on the noise from the fight. The man confirms that it's their master, and the woman says they need to evolve quickly for the coming showdown. Our hero continues the healing process on the blonde warrior with his energy and magical ribbons. Meanwhile, in the battle, the skeletal minions are getting their butts kicked by the two super strong fighters. With that, the knight admits he's powerless, and his winged partner suggests they should bail. The two opponents then turn to the group, and one of them says it's better to finish them all off quickly. But the warrior, now healed, warns the young man to run because their power has become too unpredictable. The hooded enemy, however, scoffs at the sword and tries to attack her directly with a powerful kick. However, upon hitting the blade, his leg is seriously wounded by the weapon's incredible power. His eyes go wide in shock, as he doesn't understand how his bronze leg was pierced. Fallen on the ground, the fighter screams in pain while holding his leg, which is now completely wrecked. The minions are in awe, and the knight says that the master's sword is divine and can wound anyone. The hooded man then gets up and, while admitting defeat, says that no one will stop him from escaping. With a smirk, our MC holds up a rope and asks if he really thinks he can get away. Quickly, the young man throws the rope, which wraps precisely around the fleeing opponent. With that, the fighter trips and plants on the ground, unable to get free from the trap. Completely tied up, the hooded man struggles, but soon realizes there's no way out of this. His partner is shocked, and the blonde is amazed that the man's leg didn't break the rope. Our hero then shows that the rope is connected to his arm, and that he's in complete control of it. The young man says it's a special rope, and that the enemy should feel honored to be caught by it. At that moment, the other girl has a vision of a goddess and realizes that it's immortal rope. The tied-up enemy shouts for him to let go and challenges the MC to a real fight. But the young man ignores him and orders the skeletal minions to devour the man's soul. The two servants advance, and the knight says that following this master was the best decision of his life. The winged creature laughs while absorbing the soul, saying that the taste is great and that he's eating well now. The warrior watches and wonders what kind of power the MC has awakened to be so strong. With that, the other fighter is terrified and realizes that the rope and the sword are way too powerful. Then the man with iron arms walks slowly toward our hero, filled with fear. He kneels and offers the branch he was fighting for, saying it was a mistake not to recognize his power. The MC simply walks past him, and the fighter is left confused, looking at the branch in his hand. He shouts, asking where his staff is, and the young man explains that it was just an illusion. Furious, the opponent smashes the branch on the ground and asks who put them under an illusion. Our hero points to the back of the cave and tells the fighters that the ones responsible for the illusion are over there. Inside the hot spring, the former disciples feel the tremor, and the young man comments that the master has already handled everything. The man in blue smiles, saying he's gotten stronger from the spring's energy and can now beat the fighters. With a powerful punch, the iron-armed man shatters the stone wall, opening a hole. The MC then points out the former disciples and tells the fighter to go defeat the ones who tricked him. The iron-armed man shouts that he doesn't hit women and charges forward to attack the guy in blue first. He tries to land a punch, but his opponent creates several illusions of himself and easily dodges the blow. But the pink-haired girl throws energy coins that stop the fighter's attack in mid-air. The woman in red uses her ability, and the golden coins glow brightly in her hands. With that, the coins hit the iron-armed man with full force in a sequence of attacks. The fighter's body smokes, and his clothes are torn after taking all the damage. He then falls to the ground, completely defeated and with no strength to continue the battle. The two girls in the group are shocked, and the one in shorts finds the coin ability familiar. The former disciples greet their master, and the young man comments, "We meet again? Fighting already." The hero asks the girl in shorts why she isn't attacking him, and she gets confused by his words. With that, the girl in shorts feels a terrible headache and screams that she can't take it anymore. The blonde warrior tries to understand their relationship and if the MC really is their master. At this, the skeletal minions realize that the young man is the master of their former boss and are surprised. With a serious look, the MC accuses the guy in blue of having plotted his demise in the past. The former disciple scoffs and asks if there's any point in questioning it, suggesting they fight it out instead. The woman in red then warns her former colleague to side with them, or she will attack. But the woman in red is completely shocked by what happens next in front of her. The girl in shorts positions herself in front of her master to protect him from her former companion. The woman in red yells, questioning if her ex-colleague knows what he did, but the other snaps back angrily. The short-haired girl declares that she trusts the young man and that if they want to get to him, they'll have to defeat her first. Furious, the woman in red shouts that she's asking for a beatdown and attacks with her coins. But the blonde warrior zips in front at high speed to intercept her opponent's blow. Using her weapon, the blonde manages to parry all the energy coins with ease. The blonde then taunts her opponent, saying she loves some good gossip and a nice brawl like this. The ex-disciple gets furious and readies her coins, saying she's going to shut her up right now. The ex-disciple unleashes her energy coins with full force to attack the blonde warrior. But the blonde defends with her wooden staff, saying that her weapon is a treasure. However, she realizes her weapon won't hold up under the pressure for much longer. Meanwhile, our hero looks at the defeated fighter on the ground and decides to act. He uses his staff, and a green energy envelopes the iron-armed man to bring him to his side. The fighter then stands up and gets between the two skeletal minions, a bit confused. With that, the young man asks if he wants to be his servant and promises him an immortal body in return. The skeletons celebrate their new ally, and the iron-armed man wonders if he's alive again. He then smiles excitedly, saying that as long as he's alive, there will always be new opportunities. The MC thinks that in his past life, he only used punishment, but now he'll use rewards to lead. He tells his servants that they are his friends, and that they will be rewarded for their battles. The minions bow and swear loyalty, and the new servant realizes that his master is trustworthy. Then, the young man orders his 3 servants to attack the former disciples to help the girls. The skeleton knight charges toward the woman in red, who is already fighting the blonde. With a powerful blow, he manages to knock the former disciple to the ground with a single attack. On the ground, the woman in red recognizes the master's weapon and says she's going to destroy his soul. With that, she gets up, surrounded by a yellow aura, and asks if he remembers her technique. The ex-disciple then summons a giant gold coin in the sky, right above the skeleton knight. She screams with a maniacal look, activating her special skill, Treasure Fall, with full force. The giant coin crushes the skeletal minion, who complains that it's heavier than a mountain. Meanwhile, the iron-armed man charges the guy in blue to get revenge for the illusion. The ex-disciple just stares him down, and the hero's new servant suddenly stops his attack mid-air. He loses control of his own body and ends up punching himself, falling to the ground with no idea what happened. The guy in blue taunts his master, saying he's really fallen low using trash like this to fight. The opponent then summons a sword that glows intensely with a powerful blue energy. He says it was the master who taught him how to fight with swords and challenges him to a duel of blades. With a leap, the traitor unleashes a giant sword slash that tears up the cavern floor. The short-haired girl is stunned by the attack and the immense energy contained within it. Our hero then wields his flaming sword and says that his technique is the strongest of all. Multiple arms-wielding swords appear around him, creating a wall of blades. With that, he calls this formation the sharpest wall in existence, and the defense seems impenetrable. The traitor's attack then hits the wall of swords, and a huge explosion erupts on the spot. The short-haired girl gets worried, thinking that her master's level is lower than the enemy's. At that, she feels another sharp headache, and more jumbled memories suddenly flood her mind. The traitor realizes she's recovering her memory and boasts about his progress to his former master. The ex-disciple then manages to break some of the swords in the wall with his incredible power. With a smug grin, he advances with his blade, ready to shatter the hero's defense. His sword then collides with the MC's main blade at the center of the defensive wall. But upon impact, the traitor's sword begins to crack and break into several pieces right then and there. Our hero then calmly says that his sword is sharp, but it has no backbone. The ex-disciple is in complete shock and can't believe what just happened. With that, the force of the impact throws him backward, and his sword shatters completely in the air. The girls stare at our protagonist, stunned, and one of them says his strength is insane since he managed to block the sword. The pink-haired ex-apprentice comments that her former master is always full of surprises, but she quickly changes her tune, thinking that no matter how strong her master is, he's evil and deserves a tragic end. Back in the present, the giant skeleton is kneeling, saying that he will always be his master, no matter what happens. In another flashback, we see one of the traitors with a wicked grin, saying that the master taught him something very important. He then finishes his sentence, saying that in war, anything goes. However, our young hero remains calm as several metal fragments fly menacingly toward him. He manages to dodge, suffering only a few scratches. The traitor then continues the attack, but our MC uses his banner as a shield. With a confident look, the former apprentice readies his sword for a decisive strike against his old master. At that moment, he lunges forward with incredible speed, claiming our protagonist won't be able to dodge his fatal blow. Seeing this, the blonde girl who was saved screams in despair at the thought of her savior meeting his end. Even the skeletons panic, and one of them wonders how their sovereign will manage to escape. Meanwhile, the pink-haired woman just watches, thinking that if this is enough to finish her master, then so be it. But to everyone's surprise, someone jumps in to defend our boy. The pink-haired woman is shocked and wonders how our MC's servant broke free from her suppression. With an expression of pure rage, she yells at the servant to get out of the way immediately. He strains with tremendous force to hold back the traitor's sword. The traitor then becomes indignant, unable to believe that a mere mutant from this world can resist his power. But Iron Arms declares that even as a servant, he will fight for the sovereign who believes in him. Then with a swift move, he yeets the former apprentice away, showcasing his immense strength. Clenching his fists with determination, he prepares to show the true power of his iron fists. And with a mighty punch, he lands a solid hit on the traitor, stating that he will never bow to his commands. The impact is so powerful that the ex-apprentice is sent flying violently, creating a crater in the ground. Watching it all, the skeleton gets hyped up and says he's also fired up with excitement. Then, the skeleton begins to gather his strength to break free from the treasure that binds him. With his eyes glowing intensely, He shouts that he too will manage to break the chains that imprison him. And with a battle cry, he uses all his energy and shatters the golden treasure. The pink-haired woman is in disbelief, seeing that a cursed gull broke her treasure coins. Just then, the winged skeleton appears and tells Ming Jun that he'll help him take care of the pretty lady. With that, the winged skeleton soars through the air while Ming Jun attacks the pink-haired woman with his club. The woman gets annoyed by the gull's audacity, preparing an energy attack in her hands, finding them both amusing and irritating. She then uses one of her coins as a shield to block the blow. Meanwhile, the traitor compliments Iron Arm's skill for managing to break free from his suppression. But with a hateful expression, he threatens the servant, saying that next time, he'll make him beg for the end. The former apprentice then uses a technique with 48 illusory blades that are as lethal as real ones. Iron Arms can't dodge and is slammed hard against the wall. Suddenly, a mysterious rope flies at high speed towards the traitor, catching him completely by surprise. The traitor is shocked to see the rope and wonders why his old master would have it there. In the blink of an eye, the rope wraps around the former apprentice's body, completely immobilizing him with no chance of escape. Iron Arms then thanks him for the timely help. With the traitor immobilized, the servant approaches with a clenched fist, ready to land a decisive blow. And without hesitation, he lands a powerful uppercut right on the ex-apprentice's chin, who can do nothing. He continues to deliver a flurry of rapid-fire punches to the man. The girls celebrate the victory, and one of them says that Iron Arms is going to totally crush him. Iron Arms keeps punching, but the traitor's face begins to crumble as if it were made of clay. The servant then kneels, realizing something is wrong, as the enemy's body seems to be made of mud. Our protagonist explains that this is a nascent soul technique and that using it consumes a lot of energy. Suddenly, a clay figure forms and the real traitor taunts our young hero to fight him. With a smug smile, he accuses our boy of hiding behind gulls and artifacts. He then appears in his true form and says our MC can't call himself a master acting like that. The blonde girl gets desperate and tells our young hero not to fall for his taunt. Annoyed by the interference, the traitor yells at the girl, telling her she's too loud. He then launches a powerful sword slash in the girl's direction, who tries to back away. She's terrified by the murderous intent of the blow and realizes there's no way to escape. Even the skeletons realize they can't block the sword and think the woman is a goner. At that moment, our protagonist throws an object to try and defend against the apprentice's attack. The ex-apprentice scoffs, believing it's impossible to block the sword slash he launched. But suddenly, a shiny golden coin appears in the air, right in front of the sword's attack. The coin then blocks the sword's sure hit blow, to the surprise of the traitor, who wasn't expecting that. The pink-haired woman scolds her accomplice for attacking the other girl, but he says she's useless for protecting the master. At this, the pink-haired woman is shocked by his attitude and thinks she barely even recognizes him anymore. The former apprentice then pretends to be sorry, saying he lost his head in the heat of the moment. He thanks the pink-haired girl for defending the other one, and she starts to believe he's the same person as before. Suddenly, everyone sees that our MC's weapon is stuck in the fountain. The blonde girl then realizes he didn't protect her but threw the weapon into the fountain and wonders why. The traitor starts laughing and asks if our young hero has completely lost his mind to do something like that. But he stops laughing when he notices something strange happening in the spiritual water spring. He watches closely as the water begins to bubble more and more intensely and mysteriously. Suddenly, a huge explosion of flames erupts from the water spring, completely surprising the traitors. From the flames emerges the image of a massive, imposing phoenix made of pure fire. The skeletons are amazed and say it's a real phoenix with an aura from ancient times. The other girl realizes the phoenix came from the sword and remembers that she tried to absorb that same weapon before. The former apprentice can't believe what he's seeing and says there isn't enough energy in this world for a phoenix to appear. Our protagonist then explains that if the spring exists even with little energy, it's because it has a special guide. Our young hero explains that there are only two guide substances, and the traitor concludes it must be the spiritual rhinoceros crystal. The blonde then comments that this crystal is useless for humans, but is great for nurturing divine weapons. The pink-haired girl thinks that even though her master is evil, his knowledge and judgment are impressive. At that moment, the fire phoenix begins to move, spreading its flames everywhere with great intensity. The former apprentice has a panicked expression as the flames approach him menacingly. With that, the phoenix's flames begin to rage, surrounding the traitors who have nowhere to run. The traitor gets scared and says that's the sacred phoenix fire and that a single touch can melt anyone. Desperate, he yells for the pink-haired woman to retreat because they have no way of winning this fight. But our young hero's immortal rope appears again and wraps around the traitor who was trying to escape. The rope tightens around the apprentice, preventing him from continuing his escape. The traitor yells that the master has survived for another day and that he will return for revenge. The girls approach and ask why our MC didn't chase them down to finish them off once and for all. Our boy then explains that nurturing a divine weapon doesn't mean it has truly recovered all its power. Looking at the fire phoenix, he reveals to the girls that the whole thing was actually just a bluff. Holding his weapon, the phoenix's fire begins to slowly dissipate into the air. The skeletons are impressed and comment that their master's judgment and strategy are formidable. Our young hero then thanks Iron Arms for his work, and the servant is shocked to be thanked. With the battle over, our boy RSTS Parinje. Our boy invites everyone to join, as 1 hour in there is equivalent to 3 months of cultivation. The blonde girl is super excited at the chance to get stronger, since she could only be protected during the battles. In a hurry, she runs towards the spring and takes off her clothes, shouting that she needs a power breakthrough. And without a second thought, she throws herself into the water, saying she's on her way. Our young hero then explains to her that the spring is a non-Newtonian fluid that gets hard with force. The blonde gets angry and asks why he didn't warn her about the spring's properties beforehand. The blonde girl gets out of the water and says she isn't swayed by sweet talk, showing her strong personality. The skeletons also decide to enter the spring. They comment that the sensation is great and that they can feel their bones and nerve cells growing rapidly. Iron Arms reflects that he never thought he'd be a servant, but admits the feeling isn't so bad after all. The other girl feels the pain in her body disappear and says SESLEA, a tingling sensation. Meanwhile, the OTHR blonde says she also needs to awaken her power so she doesn't hold her master back anymore. Inside the water, she feels her body changing, and an overwhelming sense of comfort takes over her completely. Then something in her mind begins to reawaken, and she remembers the profound teachings of her master. In her memories, she sees the two of them fighting demons together and causing natural disasters wherever they went. The memory gets darker, showing the calamity they brought, and she wonders who that man was. Back in the present, the blonde girl accuses our young hero of being responsible for all the evil and disasters. With a look full of rage and conviction, she screams in his face that he is a true demon. But our protagonist ignores it all, because he has just advanced to the initial stage of the Golden Core. He then notices that his perception of the environment has become much clearer and more sensitive than before. With this new ability, he can sense his servants' thoughts and sees that they are satisfied. With a slight smile on his face, our boy seems quite pleased with his new power. The blonde girl suddenly feels a chill and realizes that he might have heard her thoughts. Say she summons her powerful and menacing sword. With the sword in hand, she faces him and calls him a demon, saying he should have been gone a long time ago. Then she charges with all her might, screaming at our boy to give up his life. Seeing this, the other girl is shocked and doesn't understand why her friend is attacking our MC. Iron Arms is also shocked and wonders how a common person suddenly became so strong. TH Skeleton panics, thinking their master won't be able to block such a powerful blow. Our MC analyzes that her strength should be low, but the sword is too powerful, and he can't block it. At this, he decides he'll have to self-destruct his golden core to survive and then recover it later. The girl then advances the final blow while our young hero releases a red aura. But at the last second, she notices something strange, and her attack stops suddenly. She suddenly faints, leaving everyone confused. The servant wonders what happened and THINcast that HE was ready to sacrifice himself to block the sword. Our young hero then asks one of the skeletons to check what's going on with the blonde girl. The skeleton then approaches and carefully begins to lift the unconscious girl out of the water spring. The skeleton explains that the girl's neural pathways were blocked, which is why she fainted. He deduces that it's a mind control technique. Our protagonist becomes thoughtful upon hearing about the mind control technique used against the girl. He remembers that the traitor mastered this technique, and is thankful he interfered with the girl's attack. With that, our boy slowly bends down and picks up the blonde's sword, which is lying on the ground. He then points the blade at the girl and says there's no longer any reason to keep her around. The other girl and the servants panic, screaming desperately for him not to do it. Her friend throws herself in front and begs him to take her life instead of her little sister's. Our young hero just scoffs dismissively and throws the sword hard against the wall. With a cold look, he warns that when he leaves the spring, the next time he sees her, it will be to end her. Then our boy calls his loyal servants and says that his apprentices framed him for things he never did. He dives into the spring, thinking that if he doesn't get them first, they will surely come after him, la-ter. Our MC then realizes that the spring is an entrance to other worlds, full of dangers and opportunities. With a determined expression on his face, he seems ready to face any challenge. Diving deeper, he finds a wall of glowing crystals and says that he's found the right place. He then continues to swim downward, following the crystal wall. Our young hero finds a secret passage in the crystal wall and decides to enter to see what's on the other side. As he passes through, he feels a different energy and notices that the water around him is glowing intensely. Suddenly, he emerges into a completely new place, surrounded by a dense, glowing fog. He is impressed by the spiritual energy of the place, commenting that it's as dense as that of the old immortal realm. However, our MC realizes the energy is toxic but believes he can resist it for at least 1 hour. But suddenly, a massive swarm of mosquito-like creatures appears. The insects are very strange and look quite dangerous with their sharp stingers and red eyes. Our boy then orders his servant Ming, Jun, to take care of the insects, and the skeleton advances into battle. Our young hero notices that defeating the mosquitoes gives his weapon experience and concludes they are an advanced class. With a satisfied smile on his face, he realizes he's found a great opportunity to get stronger. With that, his weapon starts to spin rapidly, creating a vortex that destroys zombie insects. His servants then begin to devour the defeated monsters, saying they feel stronger from it. Excited, they see an even larger group of insects approaching and prepare for the feast. Then, the minions charge with everything they've got against the swarm and start destroying the mosquitoes with great excitement. The banner of 10,000 souls levels up to 6 and activates a new soul nurturing ability. Our young hero smiles at the new ability, finding it very interesting for his future plans. With that, he raises his banner and summons the spirits to suck the energy from the insects. Suddenly, all the mosquitoes are trapped inside a cubic barrier with no chance of escape. And inside, the insects begin to taiki along. Meanwhile, back at the spring, the blonde girl finally wakes up from her faint and looks around, confused. She then sees the other girl still relaxing in the spring and seems to be thinking about what to do next. Angrily, she grabs her sword and decides she'll finish off that villain's accomplice first. The other girl senses the murderous intent and realizes the blonde is no longer the same innocent girl from before. She then regrets saving her but threatens her, saying she'll break her leg if she tries anything. The blonde holds her sword tightly, but her expression shows she's in a major internal conflict. She wonders what's wrong with her, since a villain is a villain, and her friend is just her friend. However, she concludes that she can't just recklessly take out innocent people. With that, she starts to walk away, and the other girl asks where she's going in such a hurry. P.S.E. the cave. She thinks about the sword and concludes that her master is determined to see her gone. She wonders why her brother would want to end her just for siding with the master. With that, standing on a cliff, she convinces herself that the master is a villain, and that she must trust her older brother. Suddenly, an evil laugh echoes through the air, and the girl is surprised to recognize the familiar voice. Realizing it's her brother's laugh, her headache gets much worse, and she screams in agony. The pain completely overwhelms her. Back in the other world, our boy meditates peacefully while his servants continue to annihilate the insects. With 100 souls collected, he realizes the mosquitoes no longer give experience and decides to stop. Our young hero stands up and gabies as Bananar, but suddenly, a giant mosquito wing appears out of nowhere, abruptly blocking his path. Next to see the enormous body of the giant insect. They then realize it's a commander beast, a powerful creature that leads the entire insect swarm. The skeleton is shocked by the creature's powerful aura. The giant monster lunges forward quickly, trying to pierce our protagonist with its lethal, sharp stinger. However, the blow is blocked at the last second by Iron Arms. Iron Arms manages to stop the attack, but his arm is severely damaged, and he screams in pain from the impact. The servant then warns his sovereign that this place is too dangerous and that they need to retreat as soon as possible. Our protagonist agrees to the withdrawal, as his resistance to the environment's poison is almost at its limit. But he looks at the monster and regrets having to abandon a treasure like that, since it gives so much experience. Our young hero feels he can't hold on any longer and decides he needs to leave. With that, He and his weapon move at high speed back towards the passage in the crystal wall. Our boy then thinks that this world is too dangerous and that he needs more strength. Bgos Vuba Ars, suddenly he looks back and wonders if the giant mosquito somehow managed to follow him. And to his surprise, the monstrous insect shatters the crystal barrier and manages to cross to the other side. The creature looks pretty ticked off. However, the monster begins to shrink rapidly. Our young hero smiles, realizing the creature has been suppressed by the rules of this world and has become much weaker. Seizing the chance, he declares the bug isn't going anywhere and attacks to capture it in his banner. The giant insect is then trapped in the same cubic barrier as before, along with the other smaller mosquitoes. And inside, the monster begins to be slowly crushed and absorbed by the power of our MC's weapon. Our young hero then understands that the creature was suppressed because of its bloodline. He then decides that instead of looking for another world, he'll explore the area to get stronger. Remembering the blonde accusing him, he wonders why he's always seen as the big bad of the story. At this, he reflects on the betrayal and concludes that to solve these mysteries, he needs more power. Then our protagonist asks Iron Arms about the commander level he mentioned. The servant then says he has a catalog and that his sovereign can take a look to better understand the situation. Upon opening the scroll, our boy sees a map with various creatures and locations marked, and he thinks it's great. With that, he gets out of the water and the other girl sees him, asking in surprise where he had gone. Our young hero asks where the blonde is, and the girl replies that she left and tried to attack her. Oh, our boy Kaimimens T8, once someone turns evil, there's no going back. She gets out of the spring and says it's a good thing the blonde didn't do anything, or she would have finished HER herself. Dressed and ready to leave, the girl asks our MC what their next destination will be. Our protagonist replies that they are heading to the next spirit cave, which is just ahead. Meanwhile, a group of adventurers finds the OTR Tario collapsed in the middle of the road. They approach and notice that the beautiful fallen girl is the blonde, and because she has a sword, they deduce she's a mutant. One of the men then calls for a girl named Yu to help. With a surprised expression, the girl approaches to see what's wrong with the fallen woman. Looking at the blonde, she feels a familiar sensation, as if a bond of fate somehow unites them. Then the white-haired girl uses a green energy to try and heal HER. Yo-Yo explains that the girl suffered a mental attack, but luckily they found her in time to help. With the treatment, the blonde begins to slowly awaken, mumbling a little. She then slowly opens her eyes, still a bit confused. Upon seeing Yo-Yo, the blonde calls her junior sister, and Yo-Yu asks in surprise if she's talking to her. THB realizes that Yo-Yu has also lost her memory. One of the adventurers comments that she was the victim of a mental attack and wonders who could be so cruel. Suddenly, the blonde screams in pain as she feels a sharp pang in her head, worrying everyone. She then puts her hands on her head while Yu says the mental attack would have been fatal without her help. The girl remembers her brother's laugh and realizes he attacked her and wants to see her gone. With a strange smile, she tells Yu that her older brother wants to end her life. Yu becomes even more confused and asks who this brother is and how she knows her name. The blonde then asks Yu what to do, as she doesn't know who to trust, her brother or her master. With a wary expression, she says she doesn't know anything anymore and is completely lost. Yu says she doesn't understand but remembers that as mutants, their destiny is to fight demons and save the world. These words ignite a flame of determination in the blonde, who agrees with everything that was said. With an electric aura, she says she will trust in herself and fight alongside Yu to save the world.